Hello, everyone. Today we're joined by Margreet Magdi, a key figure in the MENA entrepreneurship scene. With over 13 years of experience in startup development and ecosystem building, Margreet is renowned for her ability to drive innovation and value creation. She excels at identifying unconventional opportunities and forging impactful partnerships, making her an important force in fostering entrepreneurial success across the region. Hello, Margreet. Good morning.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for a very humbling introduction.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
very much. I hope I live
that's a
up to
very
it.
short one. Yes, you do much more than what I just read. Actually, as I was just saying before recording, I love your content. You were saying that actually you're not posting content online just for your personal branding, but because you have something you want to communicate. What was this?
Yes. Yeah. So it happens that it's always my interesting conversations with people, and I end up listening to the same exact comeback is like, you need to say that much more. Like, people need to know what it is. And it's different versions of the same sentence, which is like, basically a lot of people need to know what it is that you're talking about. It's not necessarily because I'm saying it, but it's just because it's quite interesting, quite different perspectives. And maybe when we get to go into a bit of details about how I got to where I am right now, but it's just because I was lucky enough to have these opportunities to have and collect those different perceptions and different views over what the ecosystem is and how it plays out. And I've been the place of many of the stakeholders. So whenever I have a conversation, it's definitely a different experience and a different angle that you would look at things. So sometimes people, like, whenever I have that conversation, this is a very common thing that I have as a comeback, is that that's quite interesting view. That's something that I've never seen before. This is something that people should be talking about. And since I was little, since I can remember, I've always loved writing. I used to actually write for my own pleasure, and I ended up, when I was in high school, writing a few articles for a few magazines, just like casual magazines, and throughout my school and whatnot. And I used to edit as well, so edit a few of articles and review and everything. So there was something that I got, like, I wanted to get back into, and that was my opportunity to do that. So I started just, like, putting words into content, I guess. So
Yeah.
I was just saying a few days ago, I was saying to a former colleague, and she was like, she said, she used the same word, like, I like the content that you put out there. And I was like, okay, I was doing that before it was labeled content marketing. It was just writing. And I think maybe I prefer the fact that this is just like my thoughts,
Yeah.
and I'm sharing it. It's not like content, but I think this is the word that is familiar and like people are comfortable with using it right now.
So it's not like
I'm
you're doing
fine
it
with
as,
it, but
yeah. No,
yeah,
it's not part of a
no.
strategy. You're just sharing your knowledge with the world. And I think it's more important than ever, actually, to share our ideas, to add to the global knowledge and the global wisdom. And also, who knows, maybe one day
True.
with a more advanced AI, we will be able to collect all these ideas and make, we're already doing it probably. We're using a lot of ideas,
Yes.
right?
I'm not sure if I can name exact company, but I can maybe share one with you. And if you would want to, like, clear out tagging them or copying them in the post or
Yeah,
anything. But a bunch of I think there is one in the Middle East. I think there is
there you
a
go.
startup in the Middle East, and I know that there is one in I hope that I'm correct. It's in Russia, I believe so. Maybe Russia, maybe somewhere around that. But I know that because both of them have approached me, and I've approached others, but they've both approached me to build what is called like an AI library, something of that
Oh,
nature, or
nice.
a digital library with an
Yeah.
AI component of it. But then actually, just like plain out there, this is um the first like podcast thing. Actually, it is not like it. This is the first ever podcast that I'm recording, because it might not seem like it, but I'm not really comfortable with public speaking. It's
Really?
usually
No way. But No.
Yeah, I know it comes as a surprise.
Huh?
Just yesterday, I was part of that gathering for women entrepreneurs, and I was just saying exactly that. Like, I'm not very good. Like, it's not I get shy or anything, but it's a matter of like I need to be in my own space
Yeah.
and not just put on. I don't like to be on the spotlight. I don't like to be the focus of attention. I like to support, and I think that kind of shows. And this is particularly
You're more of
why
a movie
I am
director, I would
very
say.
passionate.
You're like a movie,
Yes,
you want to be behind the camera, like,
exactly.
like a puppet
Pinpoint
master,
it.
but you don't
Yes,
want to be in front of the camera.
exactly. It's probably why I have that passion for the ecosystem building instead of being like in front of it, instead of being the entrepreneur myself. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked why you haven't taken that step and why you
Yeah.
didn't become an entrepreneur. And just like, funny enough, that was just a post that I wrote yesterday, I think,
Yeah.
or the day before. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. You need those
Yeah.
people who can actually move things around. And again, with the collective experience that I got, that was very, very, very to have that experience. I can be more effective and of much more value to the entrepreneurs being where I am right now. But yeah, just this is the first interaction, and I'm um it's like me stepping into an uncomfortable scenario, but trying to motivate myself and trying to
Yeah.
challenge myself to actually do it. But I don't like to be in the spotlight. This is usually me. I like to be part of the engagement. I like to put everything in, but not be on the spotlight. This is
So
where
maybe
I'm
you're
comfortable with.
slowly but
Um,
becoming an entrepreneur, because this is part of the attributes that entrepreneurs have, is taking risk. Excuse me. So
maybe a good thing a good way to look at it. Yeah,
no,
I wouldn't hate that. Yes.
no, I think being in the spotlight as well can other people, and as you said,
Yeah.
even the entrepreneurial ecosystem doesn't only need entrepreneurs. It needs people who are good at managing and moving the pieces, like yourself. So you have to be an entrepreneur, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, to become or to be part of the ecosystem, right? Because we need different characters, we need different
Absolutely.
types of people, different skills, different energies, even. Like, that's why we talk about women and men. We don't have to compete in this energy. So I think we need everybody. It's a bit like, being on a ship, right?
Yes, exactly. It's very, very. I think it's how it's being portrayed. Like, entrepreneurship used to be. I mean, if I'm gonna go, which is again funny enough, something I was saying yesterday is, if you go back to the origin of entrepreneurship, it's like any social sciences. It's just like people studied, or others studied, the different acts and characteristics, and there's always the debate of entrepreneurship,
Mm.
whether entrepreneurs are born and made.
What do you
And
think? Sorry, I had to stop
well,
you. Are
this
they
is
born or made?
no. I think
Mm.
let clarify that point. It's not like there is a secret DNA for entrepreneurs, or it's not like that. However, there are a few articles, that very, very few interesting articles that I've read before, that talks about that secret DNA. Like,
Mm.
there is actually a debate for it among the literature, um, that says there could be an actual DNA for entrepreneurs, is because it's not usually, people are not usually risk takers. They're
Yeah.
not usually like a human nature, that you're trying to protect yourself at all time. And this is part of it. Going into that high of a risk is good. Like, they are arguably saying that it's higher DNA. And there are those people who went the extra step to kind of have focus groups and control groups and have different experiments trying to prove exactly that point. However you want to look at it, from a scientific point of view, from just a social sciences point of view, however you want to look at it, they always come to the final conclusion is that um, there are definite attributes to entrepreneurs that need to exist in that person, in that human, in order for them to be able to go through that journey. It's a lifestyle. Entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. It's not a decision that you up and take one morning. It's a lifestyle. It's something that you have to be all in or all out. It's not a decision that you take lightly. And yes, we entrepreneurs do take risks, but they take what we call calculated risks. So it's not about creating whatever business that comes out of nowhere just because we had an idea one day, which is being pushed around. This is why I'm saying not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, because media has been pushing that, not necessarily entrepreneurship, but the idea of
Glamorous.
self-actualization, self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is putting much like spotlight on all of the entrepreneurs, which is actually stressful enough,
Of
more
course.
than them trying to go through it. But being there because you're for every single decision. And it's like you have the world as an audience all of a sudden. And the more that you grow, the more your audience grow, and you have the world around kind of judging every decision that you're taking. And they should have done that, and they shouldn't have done this. Everyone is an expert, you know,
Right,
like
right, right.
everyone, you're gonna find a lot of people
Yeah.
act saying that they
Self-proclaimed,
know
like
exactly, they're
self-proclaimed
self-proclaimed.
experts. But I think it's become a status thing. Like it's a bit like, you know, the CEO title. Like you want to be called an entrepreneur because it's better to be called
Yeah,
an entrepreneur than be called an employee somewhere. Like it shouldn't be like
that
this. It
that
should
is,
come from within, right? Like as you said,
yeah,
risk taking. It's something that you are. Like it has to be like something that you can't do without,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Don't do it because people. It's a bit like
Mhm.
I was in Egypt a few weeks ago, and I met a couple of young people, and I saw with them like very advanced iPhones, like the latest iPhones, and they would be like, yeah, but this is my business card. Like when you go somewhere, you're taken more seriously, so I'm telling him the story because it feels like, it's become a status thing. So you're an entrepreneur, you have the latest iPhone because it's part of the
Yeah,
image
and
that you're
yeah,
trying to
they
portray.
MacBook.
Yeah. So we
Exactly.
shouldn't be fooled. We should be
You have a
following our
status ticket.
feeling.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it was, I remember it was like 8 years ago when I
Yeah.
was just saying in class, maybe when I was teaching entrepreneurship, and I used to say, like, tell me how, if you would close your eyes and try to describe the persona of an entrepreneur, what would
Yeah.
you say? And I remember that there was like that silence, and what they would say are things that relate to materialistic status
Exactly.
or nothing else. They know, they said like he had a BMW, and it's always a he. That was another point. It was always a
Interesting.
he, and he had, yeah, he had a BMW or a Mercedes, or just a sports car, like a very very car for that matter. And then they have a very big office. They have their iPhone and a MacBook, and they're always in a suit. And there was like a stereotype, but it was all materialistic, however they described it. And no one kind of this person, like,
Yeah.
where would they be at? Where can you find those entrepreneurs? Would you just like find them in a Starbucks maybe, or would you find them in I don't know, in a university?
Yeah.
And it's always the stage that people describe. It's always the of a very very who's raised quite a lot, or who's self-sustained, financially sustainable business, and they're very successful, that they have all of those materialistic things. And the funny thing is, it starts with that. Right now, these are the people that I'm not gonna say. I don't want to say I'm not. I don't take them seriously. But if this is your concern, I with many, like, I mean, thousands of entrepreneurs, if I can recall, and I know that type. I know that
Mm.
when we start a conversation, and I know that type who's very very on how would we look like. Like, they don't shake that point. It's like there is such a thing as brand identity and brand image, and then there is absolutely um like their minds are occupied with how their brand and their business is looked at or being judged, that they lose focus of the true essence of the business, if you
Yeah. You
will, what
become
I
a
mean.
slave to
So
your
I
image.
am precisely, like, I'm all for brand image and brand, and it's absolutely necessary. Like, there is a point when you're starting, you have to have your values reflected in your own brand. You have to have everything that represents a business. So is absolutely essential, but you don't lose yourself in how the brand looks like, and then what the business is, because that can lead you to a bunch of decisions that do not represent you. You can lose focus of why you started that in the first place, and you can definitely be very very be very absorbed in the image and in the public eye of all things, instead of either your team or yourself instead. And it's not what I'm saying is not really a very popular opinion in the matter, but this is I think this is the thing that I cherish most about everything that I went through, is that it started with the entrepreneurs and didn't start with me being in the an member of the ecosystem. Like, I started with mentorship, and this is something that I will not change for anything, because I got to live the journey through the thousand of eyes that I've met with, and they each have their very, very unique story, and it always plays out quite differently for everyone. And just it was mesmerizing to listen to and to watch. Some of them I have relations with until now for years and years, like for maybe, I think some of them are longer than 8 years now of mentees, or me being as their mentor or advisor at some point. And the different stories, the different awes and the different turns and speed bumps that they had to go through tells a completely different story than someone. And the funny thing, actually, when I happen to meet with them after they've reached a certain stage or they've achieved a certain milestone, and you kind of go back and they recall parts, which is a quite interesting take on things. So when I work with like early stage, their look at their on their own business is usually that we're trying to get into the market, we're trying to penetrate the market, we're trying to have our mark in the world, we're trying to leave something, we're trying to build a legacy. All of that, what they're trying to penetrate, that barrier or these barriers, if there are more than one, any way they can. And they can put their hands on all of them.
Well, just a quick observation is that there is, I think, in my opinion, I would love to have your take on this. There's a little bit of a misconception about the difference between being an entrepreneur and no, you think that to be an entrepreneur, you have to be very rich. You have to raise millions of euros. And in my humble opinion, I think being an entrepreneur is somebody who comes up with an idea, with a solution to a problem. And if even I notice it every time I go to Egypt, is that there, I think a lot of big chunk of the populations of the Egyptian population are entrepreneurs, whether it's a corner store or somebody, the person selling water on the street. One of my daughters, she's 7 years old. She's like, Dad, I want to, next time we come back to Egypt, I want to buy a few bottles of water and sell them on the metro. So you buy them cheaper and like you make a little profit. Those are entrepreneurs as well. What's the definition of an entrepreneur in your opinion? Is my this misconception I just mentioned, is it true, or how would you define this to people who would love to venture into entrepreneurship?
So let me start by the first half of the question. So everyone is an entrepreneur. That is absolutely true. But the thing is, that's something that they they label themselves as entrepreneurs. So the thing is, I would argue that for you to be an entrepreneur, you kind of need to earn that title. And you don't find many true entrepreneurs going around saying like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. You don't see that. They just do what is expected of an entrepreneur to do, which is precisely what you just said, is finding a solution and finding a problem and a solution to that problem. They're innovative by nature. They're creative. They're problem solvers. And this is how I would go into the second question. The second part of your question is, what are the characteristics? There needs to be, they have an eye for opportunity. This is something else, and it's quite different than problem solving, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, but there is an opportunity. It doesn't have to be a gap, but an opportunity is an opportunity. Opportunity is something that I can either enhance, make better. There's usually something there that they can definitely see that would reap millions and millions. And you are correct in that entrepreneurs are driven by innovation, which is something that there needs to be there, driven by innovation and by finding that opportunity. They are driven by I'm not going to say money, but I don't want to say it in a bad way. It's not like they're after just money and they're blinded by money. They're not, but they want to grow. That's the essence of a startup. They want to grow. there may be like a reward, but and there are different types. There are serial entrepreneurs, there are portfolio entrepreneurs, there are just solo entrepreneurs, there are entrepreneurs or co-founders that that they would want to work in a team, or solo entrepreneurs that they prefer working. And also there are different types of entrepreneurs. A serial entrepreneur whose very, very strong passion would be starting a business, seeing it into, I don't know, raising its first million or something, and then exiting and leaving that business to grow, for example, or selling the business and then starting another one. So that's what you would call serial entrepreneur. A portfolio entrepreneur is someone who has multiple businesses and would love to continue building ideas. But they're all, even the solo entrepreneur, they're all driven by the same point, is that rush of having and finding that opportunity, validating that opportunity, and actually finding that gap, and finding out that you can actually offer something much better than anything else, offer something that is either faster, cheaper, durable, however you want to call it, whatever it is, or making something out of nothing, or just building a product altogether out of something, or building an entire industry out of something. There's an interesting example that I used to take, and that is, I have to give credit to Professor David Kirby for that. He's the one who had this mentioned as a case study in his book, Entrepreneurship. And he was my mentor and still is, but closely mentoring me for since I started like passion through entrepreneurship, whether teaching or otherwise. And he's in the UK. He used to be the dean of the faculty at the British University, the business faculty. But like many years ago, he had to leave the country, and he's back in the UK. But it was in his book that particular example, that entrepreneurs, as I said, they are, this is my argument, they are born and they find out about their ability to create change or disrupt the status quo. And the example was the Beatles. So the Beatles, they would not call themselves entrepreneurs. If they are living in our time, they wouldn't call themselves an entrepreneur. But they are. If you look at all the attributes, if you are to figure out a way to analyze the entrepreneurs, or if you have a measurement or a benchmark that you can measure them against, you're definitely going to see those attributes. And you can assume that they would act as like co-founders, for example, a group collective of an entrepreneur, or all of them together make up one very successful entrepreneur. And the reason I say that is because they have disrupted different industries around them. They have definitely disrupted the music industry. They have built a new genre, basically, during their time. They have disrupted the fashion industry. If you remember in the 70s, how people used to dress and the hairstyles and everything. So they created that. It was because of their influence. There's what's called spillover innovation, and because of the record selling and the sales and the fashion and everything else, there are a bunch of industries and a bunch of businesses opened because of that, because of all of the Beatles, if you would call it that. And I think this kind of proves that an entrepreneur does not have, many entrepreneurs do not represent themselves as entrepreneurs. They say like, I'm just a businessman. I'm just a normal businessman. And the difference is, I would say that there is absolutely a difference. An entrepreneur is, they would take much bigger risks, I would say. But then again, the key is calculated risks. They wouldn't just go blindly into anything. And calculated means it might be a higher probability of a higher risk, higher impact, higher probability, everything else, but they know how to work through it. They have the mitigation plans. They are, as we said, problem solvers. So they can solve that as they go. They have an eye for opportunity. So if they face that problem, they can easily pivot towards the next thing, or towards changing or altering a part of the business in order to focus more on exactly, or finding exactly where that gap is. But they never go blindly into anything. A businessman has the same attributes, but they would never venture into the same, and this is why it's a venture. They never venture into the same risks. They wouldn't start something out of nowhere. A businessman would usually be comfortable with just having a very traditional business, something that is well tested. We know exactly what we're doing. There are no
like a restaurant, for
surprises
example,
coming along our way.
like traditional
Like
ideas
a
in,
restaurant.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. More traditional businesses. So to a restaurant, flower shop, bakery, I don't know,
right.
anything that is like well-tested business model, and that's it. You can even see that in the entrepreneurship like sector, there are a bunch of new businesses, sorry, a bunch of new titles and jobs that have been created just through that. Like growth hacking was never a thing for entrepreneurship, which is arguably, some people argue that is like a different take on, or a different title for business development. And then people would then argue that business development is a different take on sales. And I've seen so many titles that you can't, you really have to ask nowadays is like, what exactly is your scope? What is it that you're doing? In a traditional business, you're going to see very clear functions: finance, marketing, sales, HR. You're going to see something that is very, very clear to you, and the hierarchy is clear. The difference in that world and this world is quite confusing right now, because you're kind of being pushed towards that entrepreneurship field. You want that focus, you want, as you put it, the glamour behind entrepreneurship, and there's nothing wrong around it. To want that attention, and it's like a reward, as you said, a reward for all your hard work, and a reward for that disruptive manner that, or disruptive actions that you're taking. This is all very good. You will be noticed for that change that you're taking or you're doing, but it shouldn't be the thing that you're going after. And unfortunately, because of media right now, and another thing is because of how we celebrate the fundraising part,
That's
which
a
is,
big
yeah.
theme as well, a big topic, and a lot of people think, yeah, let's just their and I'm sure you have a lot to say about this. Raising money is the objective. This is the goal, to raise money without thinking that actually you're in debt,
You're
like
in debt.
you're in
Yes,
debt, right?
yes, precisely. I just said a few minutes ago that they're like, entrepreneurs are driven by money, and what I wanted to say here is like profit and getting their business to be a $1 billion valued business. That can all happen without having to raise such amounts and celebrate being in debt. You celebrate what you're going to achieve by being in that. But it's just because I don't know who started that. I can't honestly put my hands on how that started, but it started and it's snowballing. I mean, I remember the days when incubators used to have seed money of maybe, I don't know, 50,000 EGPs. And I'm just speaking EGPs, not even dollar. And at some point I blinked, and then I found seed money of 1 million. It was at some point, I think it was around 1 million in 2018 or 2019. $1 million, sorry, 1 million EGP as seed funding. That is huge for a startup at that stage, trying to still stand, trying to find where they're at and still being incubated. A good friend of mine just wrote a post on LinkedIn, my good friend Dais from VMS. And he just wrote something a few days ago, like he was very appalled by the fact that there are a few like Series A startups still being accepted into incubators and accelerators. And you would definitely question that action, but I would question the startup's motive, not even the incubator and known. I would question, why would a Series A stage startup would be looking to go in incubator with seed funding of around, I don't know, like 250 EGP or 500 even. But then you would see that it's not, which is something that we keep saying to any of the incubatees, but it doesn't really change what is, and they find out later on that it's not money that they would want, is the network. They go back into incubators is because of the network, the different resources that provide you, the mentorship, the support that is beyond the money. It's because when you have such a large amount and you don't have direction, it's very, very easy to lose track of why you done that, and you
Losing money as well.
start losing money. It's the same thing as if you are a person on your own. When you start making a big money, you start spending big, and it's like it's fine. I'll pay it back one time. I don't have to worry about it right now.
For first time entrepreneurs as well, like many actually companies, the first time, like I remember my first company, I lost a lot of money because I didn't have a sense of, okay, how am I supposed to retain and then, grow wealth or grow like the money that's coming in.
Exactly. Wealth. Thank you for using that word.
Yeah.
How you would grow wealth. It's not how much is in the bank. It's not how much is your capital, your business, how much you're putting in, how much you're raising, but the idea, the fundamental of what it means of raising funds. There was a young lady I was speaking to yesterday. She's an aspiring, lovely entrepreneur, and she's done wonderful with her business that, again, started all of a sudden, just giving proof to exactly what I'm saying. It started all of a sudden. She even kept saying that I don't myself as an entrepreneur, but just so happens that people recognize me as one because I've done something quite different, it looks like, and I'm offering something that is not in the market, and I'm offering it solving a problem or adding value in a specific way. And she asked a question within that gathering I was in. She said, when do I start fundraising? Because I don't feel like I need to right now, but I'm being to. And when I asked, how are you being pressured? Is it your like shareholders? Is it your co-founders? And she said, no one. It's your team. Is it who's pressuring? She said, society. Every time I speak to someone and they say, this is like the second or third question that I get asked after, what is your business? Like, how have you raised money before? And that started becoming like, I've seen this in applications for incubators and accelerators, which is quite frustrating, to be quite honest. It can be a success indicator, but it shouldn't be on the application. Like, you can find out about it. You can have it a question somewhere, or you ask, like, how much capital do you have right now? Or what is your cap table structure is like? You can, who's cap table? You can definitely ask it in a different way, but not have it as one of your criteria, because it's quite devastating for the people who have to write no or zero, and it's like they think that they're less just because they did not raise, which is quite different. It's actually the opposite. You raise funds when you are at your absolute best. This is number one. This is the second misconception, is you raise funds when you're at your absolute best scenario. So you have to reach that scenario first. You don't money when you are in debt, or you have a bunch of gaps, or your business model is shaky, or you have to study that. And I can't tell you how many times I sat in competition and asked, what is your ask? And they say, I don't know, whatever it is that you're going to give me. And, or the other,
it's like a joke, actually.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, it happened for real.
It is. And it's funny because it's true. It's like, it's sarcastically funny. It's like, whatever you're going to give me. And I remember I was sitting amongst a jury, and I asked that question, and the reply was even funnier. He's like, how much is that program paying? It's like, if you are asking how much that job pays, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did you apply to that incubator? Why did you apply to that program? How does it align with your strategic objectives? How is it going to get you from point A to point B or Z or wherever you're going? Why are you here? Are you for a few thousands? Is it
that's their business model, is to raise money from, like, that's the business model for them, but it's totally wrong.
Exactly. So this is what just like, and I think there was another comment.
What's his name? What's his family name?
Izzeldin Osama. I feel I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but let me get it out quick. And he has a lot of experience working with startups who are early stage or advanced. Yeah, Izzeldin Osama. Yes, I was right. I was for a second. And he's the investment manager at VMS, and he wrote that like post. He was said he was kind of, I think he was just sharing his frustration out with his network, and I do agree with that, like wholeheartedly agree that this is something that if the startups are looking to do that, if they are applying as incubators or as the enabling environment, the enablers, we need to have we need to put a stop to that, not in a but we need to see what is that puts them back into that point that they think that they need to join an incubator accelerator, and address exactly that. But leave that room for those early stage startups and who would want to benefit from let's go to then reason behind an incubator accelerator. Let's go back to that. But this has been happening for a few years, not just recently. I mean, he maybe just wrote that post a few days ago, but this has been happening for a few years. And I've also been,
it's everywhere. And like in France, for example, here it's become a national sport. People, you know, they just want to, like, their goal is to raise money. They're not thinking about, okay, how can we get this company to be profitable? How don't we have to test the idea in the market first and see if it's feasible? And then once, as you mentioned before, once it's working properly and we know that there's a feasibility, then we start raising money because we really need it, not because it's we do something too.
Exactly. And there are a bunch of reasons. I've heard when I asked that question myself, it's like, why are you joining? Why did you apply? And they said it's just because this is operational money. This is money that I'm going to use to like pay my salaries for a few months, or pay my I don't know, a few bills. This is just operation money, and who's going to say no to additional money? And the thing is, incubators don't take equity in Egypt, which is, I think, a very common thing, like around all around. Like maybe accelerators are the ones who usually do that, but incubators don't take equity. So this is like money for no equity. Who's going to say no to money for no equity? And that is why it's baffling when you see that incubators have raised the seed money, or they've raised even pre-seed, not just seed, even their pre-seed money to pre-seed capital to 500,000 or however many. I mean, see, I always refer back to the competition, like the very early stages, I don't know, 2010 maybe, or 2009, when there used to be competitions that I used to attend online or see the recordings of in the States, and different competitions inside universities, where the award was like $5,000 or $2,000, and they used to kill for that. They used to come up with a bunch of amazing ideas. Yeah, for that. But now the sad thing is that we pushed those entrepreneurs to go into that state where, if the program is not paying well, let's put it that way, if they're giving them that amount, they withdraw, they let go of the opportunity. But then they come after a few years asking, how can we get in touch with someone who can do exactly that? How can we have your network? How can we benefit from I don't know, any resources that we used to offer? I'm speaking out of experience, and I'm saying we because I run an incubator accelerator a few years back. A few years back. So these were conversations that I had, and there were few that I've met, and I truly admire until now, that they have said, how about we just we don't get seed funding until we have our business up and running? How is it that we keep it with you? And that was a very, very inspiring for me, even because I hadn't come across that before at that time. And they asked that they actually requested that they don't receive their seed money until they reach a specific milestone. It's like kid who's trying to, I don't know, not spend all his Christmas gift
Allowance.
or for Christmas allowance at one point, and they're like, Mom, can you keep it with you for a few hours? Whenever I see like something that I really want to buy, so I can do. They kind of said it in a similar manner, to be quite honest, and it was very endearing. It was very inspiring, and that milestone, it was like their motivation, and then they used it. Others have asked for us to help them use it for resources. So they said, like, we need to buy a bunch of things, and we don't know where to reach out or how to, or who are the vendors even, or anything. So can we use that money that you guys can do it, and you can help us reach those vendors, get those offers, almost of in-kind support instead of just directly for the money.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, you can see that it is actually difficult to spend money. Let me put it that way. It's actually much more difficult.
You don't know.
Exactly. So it's much difficult. When I ask, another reply that I receive is, what are you, to the question, what are you going to do with that money? What is your plan? And you usually get that graph or that pie chart that has like, it's divided into different segments, and this is like a 20% on marketing, 30% on whatever. And when you dig deeper into that, when you have an actual about those percentages, how did you come up with that percentage? Why is it 30% for marketing and not 20? Why is it 15 for high? It's not whatever other number. And you can see that they're either just like came up with it ballpark, like
They're following a standard, like, you know, they've seen it somewhere else, or sometimes the donors. I've seen it with working for an international organization, United Nations or BBC, whatever. When you get a grant, there are lines that you have to live by, like, you know, live up to, like a certain percentage for salaries, a certain like a piece of the grant has to be go to the overhead and stuff like that. And then you're just following the, you know, like the standard, what they are requiring you to do.
Exactly.
So you don't have an answer.
This is true, because was that we had to apply for one of the grants that we were giving out, and there are usually a few restrictions to this. Like I think it was HR should be around 25%, or it's not exceed 25%, and then overheads should be X amount. And yeah, that was true. And they're either following, as you said, they're following something, or they're just following the rules, or they've seen it somewhere, or again, as like ballpark, where it looks like we might need X amount, or they're following like the projections from their current spending. So we're currently spending X amount for marketing, and it looks like if we increase, client base increases, or if we want to access other markets, then we're gonna have to double the marketing. And it's actually different strategies that will work out for you. Like this could be a one strategy that you're going to focus on marketing in order to penetrate another market. That's fine. There could be other strategies that you can be utilizing. Have you had that? Have you studied the other options? Or are you just going, again, as I said, ballpark, like this is what we're spending now, this is where we want to go, and it's just like cross multiplication, this is the number that we should receive. But when you have those deeper conversations, you can see them like thinking it even on stage. And there isn't there are a few ones who can surprise you with the answer, that they're ready for it and they've actually done their homework and have done that, but the majority haven't. And
what is the solution, Margaret? Like we've talked about, you know, this is obviously a big problem in the ecosystem in the region. It seems to me that part of the solution would be the education and capacity building.
Well, I think,
what do you think? Are you involved in any programs that tackle this heads on?
I am to be and actually multiple, and I still mentor, whether as part of a program or on my own. Sometimes people reach out through the DMs, and I am happy to help. But I don't think capacity building or training or any of that cuts it nowadays, because I mean, most of the information is already exists, that it's already out there. It needs, I think it's time for the ecosystem itself to have an innovative breakthrough, not for the entrepreneurs. And it's quite due. So I think we're demanding innovative business models. We're demanding a lot from the entrepreneurs, but we're not really offering something different than what we've been for the past decade or more even. And I think this is where the birth of the venture studios, or not the birth, because venture studios have been there for a while, but you can see more of them right now. You can see a lot of focus. You can see many that are popping up everywhere with like venture studio X and Y. And I think it's because of the unique nature of how those venture studios work, and the focus on different sectors, and starting from a business, from idea stage and until investment. There's a lot it's a different business model. It's a different take. And I think we need more of that. Capacity building is something, but I think something else that we might need as an ecosystem is having a framework and having, I'm not going to say, I know it kind of leads to like a study, a stakeholder mapping. I'm never going to suggest another stakeholder mapping because there's about, I don't know, 700 of them out there. And it's not stakeholder mapping that is needed. I think we need something like a job description, I would say. I don't know what the equivalent for that would be on this scale, but on a macro scale, we need job descriptions for the different stakeholders. So I need to know as an incubator what it is that I'm supposed to be doing and what it is that I shouldn't be doing, and someone else should. This is it should be. Yeah, exactly. It's not do's and don't, but
almost
like where I should hand over to the next stage. Who's in charge of the next stage? And I am specialized in this particular part, and without me, the cycle wouldn't start. Like as an incubator, it's funny. There's TIC, which is a very, very well-known accelerator in Egypt, and it belongs to the Ministry of Communication in Egypt, or is administered by the Ministry of Communication. And TIC has a very unique but confusing definition, as they call themselves accelerator, and the accelerator is actually incubator. This is where the early stage startups would have from. They start
that's from the name as well.
Yeah, and then they go into the incubator, and they have a different. It's not like a debate. They're uniquely known within our ecosystem and the Egyptian ecosystem for exactly that. And if you are to ask any of them, they have argument for it, which is it's a strong point of view. They make a strong argument, but they do have an argument for it. Is whatever the argument is, it kind of, this alone, just on its own, without no intention to actually be any without the intention of contradicting anything or causing any confusion amongst anyone, but this alone kind of confuses the prospect entrepreneurs that are trying to apply to that program. Is that like, am I accelerator stage ready? Am I, do I, etc. But then when you read the qualifications, that you understand that you are, and then you understand more about them, etc. But in Europe, when I used to work there, and when I used to study there and went there again for work, for tours, Europe has a different take on how, and it still is until now, and this should be, in my, again, humble opinion, this should how entrepreneurship should play out. The enabling, at least, is that incubators should be attached to universities. This is why the word incubation, which is some people don't, I'm a person who like to think of the origin, or like to know the origin of the word, because it gives much value to the word itself, and you really grasp understand the context a lot more when you understand what are the words used to describe it. So it's a very, very simple explanation. Incubator is like the babies, where they are incubated inside the incubator in the hospitals. Once they're born, they're put inside that glass, I think it's made of, like that transparent box.
Immature babies,
I would say, box. Exactly. Yeah. Immature babies, and they have to be immature babies. They have to be babies who are born with health issues, God bless them, and they need that support within this incubator. So there is like feeding tubes and monitors and like
and the right temperature, like your
yes,
you're like and fed till you get to the right weight, and then you're ready to face the real world. Exactly. So you get outside of the incubator.
Exactly. Or it's not just the weight, where whatever health problem comes out that prevents you from being in the world.
Yeah.
So this is how you should have an incubator. This is what the incubator should be doing. You need to have those ideas that are not ready for the real market. You need to simulate that real world environment and real world context and have them ready to step out on their own. But what you see is some of those graduates of those cycles of incubators, they go into the real world and they plateau. They know nothing. They don't do anything. They don't know how to connect with the stakeholders. They don't know how to talk to them. And then you go into assessing what it is that you have learned, and then it became sort of a curriculum, as if like for universities or for schools, even you have curriculums, but it becomes like there are a few topics that you take like a standard. I remember someone like a few years ago in an event, and they're like, we're starting a new incubator, and I was like, there is a lot of incubators, what are you offering differently? And they're like, the usual. They said, I was
surreal.
appalled. I was appalled by that, but I had the conversation because I was really like, what is your motive behind that? And once they said, the usual, I had to ask, what is the usual?
What is the usual?
What is the usual? And it's like, business modeling, finance for non-financials, go-to-market strategies. And they started listing a bunch of things. I mean, even if I wouldn't call them the usuals, I would call them the fundamentals, the essentials of entrepreneurship. There are things that you should know as an entrepreneur. So these are fundamentals. That's absolutely correct. But how updated is it? How relevant is it to what's happening in the market? What else are you bringing? Are you bringing case studies? Are you bringing speakers? What is the support that you're offering? I started asking a bunch of questions, and they kept nodding as like, you make good points. I think we should consider that. I'm like, please do, because we don't need another incubator unless you're offering something new into the market. So incubators should have a job, and then this is, as I said, the equivalent of job description at that scale, and then accelerators, and then however we want to play it out, however we need to hand out to the next stage, but we need to hand out to the next stage. You can't have a series A inside incubators and accelerators. Then what are VCs for? Then what are others doing if they are in incubators? Where are the early stage are going to go? And then comes the developmental market, and the development agencies and everyone, the donors, the GIZ, the USAID, the European Union, all those funded programs. Where do they come into play? Why are you you're giving out grants in exchange of what? Is it again an incubation cycle? Has it been studied? One interesting conversation that I had before is that even those entities, I mean, being a proposal writer myself, there's one thing that always appalls me is the lock frame, which is basically a very
famous one. Famous lock frame.
Yeah, the famous lock frame, exactly. You have to figure out right now for a project that's going to be implemented within like 3 or 4 years, you have to right now figure out what your KPIs are, what your baseline is, where you're starting from, what are your targets, and everything like that. Is fine. That is absolutely fine. But right before the start, I need to carry out the exercise again. And the thing is, they don't allow you, most of the organizations, they don't allow you to provide a different alternative. They do, however, allow you, like throughout the reporting, is like, has anything changed that would allow you, that would hinder that progress, or that would not allow you to reach numbers? And then it becomes about the numbers, and it's not about impact anymore. It's about the numbers again. So we're playing out the same exact scenario that the entrepreneurs.
Nothing has changed. Are you still using the theory of change as well as part of the proposals? Like we used to use them.
I still see it requested, but I don't, like, I personally, when I'm to either I'm working on a proposal or an unsolicited proposal, I don't use it unless it's asked. But I've just written, like, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I've just written one where it was like clearly requested, the theory of change. And this in itself, that's the point. We need to consider what's being asked and what's being provided. If we do innovation, if we work in the field of innovation, if we work in innovation, we need to be innovative in how and what we're offering.
And the donors as well. Like you were talking about the donors,
well.
I guess, like they need to keep an open mind when it comes to like different proposals and different ideas, and you don't always have to fit.
It's not just the donors; it's even governments. And
of course.
So when when the Union or the USAID or any big donor agency, when they're renewing or signing a protocol with a government, I think there needs to be a study of what's existing.
Yeah.
And from the government side, not from the agency side, or sorry, from the donor side. From the government side, they need to see what's lacking and what resources are not present, and that they need to fill out with that agreement or that signing, so that they are offering something new, so that
Exactly.
that competing with what nationals are providing. So
Which is often the case, actually.
Which is most likely
everywhere. I've seen it everywhere in
yeah,
Tunisia and Morocco and Egypt, probably.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's because definitely there is a pre-planned agenda, there is a preset agenda, few KPIs that they need to go, and they have their own whatever objectives that they need to cover for that year, or focus that they need to cover. But again, I'm not ticking the boxes exactly.
Yeah,
and when I was again, when I was in Europe, though, for those tours, the interesting part was how much support that those entities are getting from the government, direct or indirect support. And it starts with the universities. It starts with the incubators and the support within the university, because the university in itself should be the first incubator for that idea. So while you're in class working on something, or you're a researcher joining, or a fellowship, or whatever it is that you're doing in that academic institution, you are working on idea. You're generating ideas. Once you have a proof of concept, then you take it into an incubator stage, and then you try to build that idea. If it stands out, then great, you can go into the real world through the accelerators, and then you can accelerate that business. You can actually accelerate those steps, and this is how it should play out. And then you go into the different or work with the different stakeholders. But that's not how that's not the case in most I think Egypt. In MENA, actually,
exactly. That's a very, just want to jump in here quickly. So far we've been talking about the Egyptian ecosystem or the MENA ecosystem, or both. And if I would like to zoom out as well and have a quick look at the ecosystem in Egypt, but also as vis-a-vis the rest of the region.
Actually, I was speaking about the MENA region. Anytime we're mentioned in Egypt, this is the particular example here. But for the MENA region, I think because we had quite an experience, entrepreneurship started in MENA region from the private sector, as a private as a way of doing a different way of doing business, as a different like as another employment or a solution for unemployment. Is entrepreneurship. There is a very unique theory, the push and pull theory in economics. It kind of applies to entrepreneurship. If you look at it that way, is it's either you're pulled into becoming an entrepreneur, or pushed into that. And I think it's exactly this is how it is. I think it's the pull theory actually applies in Europe, and the push theory applies within the MENA.
Punchline right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's because I think I'm going to speak about Egypt, at least for now, because and it's within the literature that you're going to see that entrepreneurship flourishes during downturn, when there are issues, when there are problems, when whatever it is happening. This is why you can track it. I think there are a bunch of reports that came out after the revolutions, all over. You can definitely see the number increasing dramatically, the number of early stage startups increasing dramatically in all countries. In Egypt, it was, watch how many ideas, like people coming up with solutions to replace any of the old regime, or replace any of the maybe the international companies that were there, or international products that are no longer operating in Egypt because they had to close because of the revolution and everything like that. And because of the collective kind of unspoken agreement that we want to build that country together, so let's come together and build something. So this is when entrepreneurship flourished. This is when it's kind of through the hockey stick curve, I would say, for Egypt, in terms of the much needed attention that was missing from the entrepreneurship scene. But we've in Egypt, we've been pushed towards entrepreneurship, and this is again because of the size of the population, the number of the population, and the poverty.
In the Arab world as well, for any outsider who's not familiar with the region, Egypt, I think, has the biggest population in the Arab world.
Yes,
I believe,
it is, I think,
and a young population as well.
Yes, I think the last I might be correct in that, but I think it was like 11 billion or 12 billion. I think that we've reached a number that I can't be quite honest. And there we have centralized services within the capitals, I think, or the largest cities, I would say, not just the capital. So Cairo and Alexandria, and maybe in Upper Egypt, I would say Asyut, for example. So you have the majority, actually, the majority of the, and then Alexandria, and then I think it might suit, and then Luxor and Aswan. And this has resulted in population. I think it was, or maybe more, but I think the recent number that I'm sure of was 70% under the population line, and the poverty line. So that this is a very big number that is actually motivating a lot to pursue entrepreneurship in their own context.
So that's a push effect, because you have no other choice. That's what you mean by the push effect.
Exactly. You're pushed towards entrepreneurship.
Not because it's glamorous, but it's because you have no other option. There's no government is not providing the like jobs, so you have to create your own job, kind of.
Exactly. You have to change the status quo somehow, so you're being pushed towards that just because of poverty, or because of a very bad upbringing, or whatever reason that is pushing you towards that. I think we have more of that in the MENA region than in Europe. This is why I would say that this applies to the MENA region more than it does apply to Europe. And this is how you can see, I mean, if you carried out that thought, which I did actually for a while back there, that I carried out the thought and the analysis, just at least for my own good. You can definitely see, like, it plays out how the ecosystem interacts with each other, how why we have so many incubators and many accelerators. I think in all of Europe, you can count them, you can list them, but if you are to list for the GCC or the MENA region,
more, definitely,
it's many more, like that. And that would tell you, but then you can compare the success rate of those startups in Europe and then those startups in Egypt, in the MENA region, again, not in Egypt, and you're going to see drastic numbers. So like we're putting a lot of money into the ecosystem, but we're not getting what we need. So this is a very long answer to your question, whether or not capacity building is the key. I don't think it has it, and I would hope that we a different answer to that. And as an ecosystem, we need to come together and see what's happening, what's going, because it's not, and I mean by the ecosystem in a region, not just Egypt. I mean, on a national level, I would love if every country has that kind of understanding and deep analysis of their ecosystems. But as the MENA region, we need to figure out what's going on and why do we have that duplication, that extreme duplication, because it's not only a duplication, we're depleting our resources, which we can put in building an infrastructure, much stronger infrastructure, networks, definitely. So like the connectivity and networks, we can actually be more connected to the outside world. We can allow like startups like the fintech to actually grow even more. We can look into the policies, build those policies. I mean, there's been a lot of debate and back and forth social entrepreneurship, for example. And I don't think social entrepreneurship, maybe in Tunisia, I think, and Jordan, there are glimpses of in that, but then I don't think there are any regulatory frameworks or any even laws or governance for
that actually doesn't exist. Like in Tunisia, for example, where I work, don't have this when you can't as a social enterprise yet.
You can't register, you can't legally register, but at least the conversation is there. I was involved in several projects like 4 years ago, and Tunisia was the one, Tunisia and Jordan, I remember, this is why I'm referencing them. They were the ones that show much potential for that for that place. But I think for as far as like Egypt, for example, we're really far from having that regulation. I mean, there are few different initiatives. I give that, and I'm thankful that they exist, but we don't have social entrepreneurship as a legal structure. We still don't have. We have what a startup is in Egypt. We have a definition to that, but we still do not have the banks or the financial institutions recognizing startups for who they are. They still treat startups as SMEs, as just a very, very small
Regular businesses.
regular business, like a enterprise. Because to a bank, the same thing. We don't. It's the same. They're not. Which is again another thing that I wish that we can have capacity building to the ecosystem themselves, not
Exactly.
the startups.
And the government as well. Did you think maybe on the board, like you were mentioning before, donors having conversations with local governments? Do you think and for each government should be a board, or we should increase the number of entrepreneurs, real entrepreneurs and business
On the board?
people
And I
board?
think we have a this took place I think earlier this year, or maybe like 2 or 3 just very, very recently, which is the entrepreneurship unit, وحدة ريادة الأعمال الدايمة, actually to say exactly the name,
In the
under
government?
Yes,
Under
under GAFI, the General Authority for Investment in Egypt. And on the board, on the advisory board, you have a bunch of actual entrepreneurs on there, and they're working together with the government for troubleshooting the ecosystem, as I've been told, and I'm loving that. I'm loving that because they're speaking, they're getting into the ecosystem, and they get that right. They're fast tracking that development, I hope. And they have their for them. It's not going to be easy trying to change that. Humans are always against change. They're always resistant of change. But this particular one, this is I would say, because our ecosystem is actually quite mature in the sense that it's been there for over 2 decades, I would say. And things are like really rooted in, like the ways that we do things are really rooted in. So trying to push that in direction and changing or disrupting that status quo is gonna upset a lot of people, but I hope they do it for the good. Like, I mean, it needs to be done. You need to weed out the bad roots or the infected roots. We need to really analyze where our resources are going, and by resources I don't mean money. I don't just mean, I mean our talent, our actual talent.
Very good point. Talent is very important. I think the MENA region has I think it's one of the biggest, most competitive regions in terms of talent. I mean, have you seen both sides? You're well traveled, like you've seen many countries. What would you say is the competitive edge that the MENA region has vis-a-vis the rest of the world when it comes to business?
Okay, so
innovation.
It has, I think, this might. It's not the innovation, to be quite honest. It's not the innovation. However, okay, let me rephrase that. Okay, so
exactly. Sounds a bit.
Not the innovation. No. It's not. Not the innovation. I mean, when you say the word innovation, I just want to be very mindful of how people are on the word innovation. It's not. I'm not seeking rockets or gadgets or machines or whatever, because this is what the word is synonym for. It's what you would get. Like, this is the idea that comes to your mind when I say this is an innovative product. You always think of tech or machinery or something like that. So I'm very aware of how this is how people to hear the answer. It's not the in terms of the products or the outcomes. They are very, however, innovative in solving, again, because of that whole push theory that I'm telling you about. Not just because this is what I think, but it is the fact that we are bootstrapping as an ecosystem in Egypt and in MENA. Apart from the recent addition, or the recent, I would say, the very obvious and very well thought after Saudi or the kingdom. I think apart from that, and Dubai as well, they're offering something new, which is that rich ecosystem, not ecosystem, sorry, that rich context and this is where I know, like, maybe you've heard it, and think the entire world have heard it, like Dubai is where dreams come true. This is like, come to Dubai is
I have many
because,
friends yours who've moved there, you know.
yeah, because this is where, I mean, the world has kind of agreed this is where, apart from the States, where, because that usually
This is an
what
American dream, the new well, Dubai dream, I guess.
it is the new American dream, precisely. And I think it's because they've built, they made it to build a place where they can actually make dreams come true. So they've built the context where those businesses can thrive. It's the
In what sense?
different agreements, trade agreements and whatnot that you can have, the regulations, the rules, how the cities, how
Ease
they
of doing business.
yeah, exactly, ways of doing business, how you attract investors into the country. They have that wealth out. This is something that, I'm speaking about Dubai, I'm not speaking about the entire UAE. I'm speaking about Dubai in specific. And they've built an international city within the Emirates for precisely that. This is my take on things. And Saudi and or the kingdom is trying to get their take on that as well. And I think they're doing it on the kingdom level, not just on Riyadh or anything. They're doing it on a kingdom level. And I think this is another playing field. It's very competitive. And I think they have a lot to still prove to the ecosystem, but there's a lot of potential. But for the MENA region in general, and I would say not just North Africa, I would also look at Africa, because the entire world is also looking at Africa. And because our resources, which is your original question, our resources are our talent. This is number one, talent. Number 1, 2, and 3 is talent.
Youth.
And then, yes, and knowledge in general. You can have, I think, because our education is much more intense. Let me use that word. Much more intense than anywhere else. If you are to the curriculums and compare the curriculums at different stages, like I can guarantee you that's much more intense than, that goes across the MENA region, I would say, than Europe or the Americas or anywhere else. So the know-how, the age group, youth are dominating. They're the largest age group that is in MENA. And then the innovative ideas that come out of actual need. This is what I was by them being innovative. So there is an actual need that is being forced on you because of whatever status that you're living in, because the country you're living in is not providing that, or because your upbringing did not provide you with this, or you had a very poor childhood, so you're trying to change the status quo because it's been imposed on you. So we have a lot of innovation in that sense. Not necessarily innovative products, but innovation in terms of the ideas, the solutions, the ideas that are coming out of that. If you are to look at Upper Egypt, again, precisely, which is the part that I love the most. Like, I love the ideas there. I love the people there, because of the ideas are actually quite simple in nature. You would think, like, did I not come up with that? How did no one come up with that already? But again, because of their lack of resources, they are bootstrapped. They're the most bootstrapped part of the country, Upper Egypt is, because again, there are people not even educated or not allowed access to education, even in those it's beautiful how I'm innovating without having any direction of innovation. There was an example that I used to use in teaching, actually, was this woman. She was very old. I'm quite sure she's not certain, but like, I'm quite sure that she wasn't. And she used to sit and sell tissues and just like candy in front of one of the gates of my university at some for like a year and a half or something. And then she has moved from that gate. Like, she stayed every single day in front of that gate for a really long time, that she became part of the environment. Like, people knew her name, she knew some of us, and she was like part of the environment. And then she moved out one day. She wasn't there. Like everyone guessed, like maybe she's sick, she like got bored, she went somewhere else. And then we found her just sitting, and she took place in front of another gate. Carries out, when you try to figure out, like, stories went behind, like the people who kind of engage with her, the students who kind of engage with her, they told the story, and it's been told and retold throughout the different cohorts. And until I used it in actually teaching at some point, she did not, she found that she noticed that the students coming out, in and out from that gate that she was at, started decreasing drastically until there were like almost none, like 3 or 4 coming in and out. And then she started asking the security guards in front of the different gates, like, where are people going? Why is no one coming in and out of there? And she kind of came to the conclusion is that, oh, is it perhaps the buses used to stay there? So that means like I need to look where the buses are. She started asking, so where do the buses park? And someone pointed her out where that new gate was built, where the new parking was, and the university buses were at. And then she found the students again, and she standing there. No one has taught her anything about business.
Location.
Nothing. Exactly. Like, I've studied my major as actually and bachelor's is in, like, the 4 P's is like everything, the basics of marketing. No one has taught her anything about location. No one has taught her anything about, like, those are your clients. You need to go to where the client's at. Not, you don't have to ask them to go somewhere. You go where there are. And it's a brilliant, it's about, this is again a need. She moved because of that. She moved because it was something, a situation that is imposed on her. And you can say, I don't want to say that she pivoted, but in her own way, she did. She kind of pivoted her small little business to get to where she's at. So the MENA region's resources, or actually competitive advantage, I would say, apart from the talent and apart from the age group, I would say then the ideas, because we have true ideas that would change economies. Because we're building economies, because we don't have the luxury within the rest of the MENA region. Again, apart from maybe, again, the kingdom and Dubai and UAE, then general, but the rest of the MENA region and the rest of Africa, Africa is a gold mine. The entirety of Africa.
Literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
There's a lot of gold as well.
Literally and figuratively. It's a gold mine of ideas. I haven't met a startup that coming out of Africa that is not mind-blowing. Their solutions, the fintech startups in Africa are brilliant. Because of, again, the difficulties of that environment, the exchange and transfer of money. Because of what they face, they came out with brilliant ideas. And that is a true testament to what entrepreneurship can do. I do wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship can change nations. It can move one point to the next. Are to focus with those entrepreneurs, provide the right context, turn the entire country into an incubation or an incubator. We can see what's happening, but we all have to do our part. We don't need to compete together as an ecosystem in order to do that. We're not competing for the startups. We're here to enable them. We're the enablers, so we don't need to compete together. We need to help them compete and reach that. I think this is in my heart what's great about the MENA region, and this is exactly why I'm very proud to be part of the MENA ecosystem, not anywhere else. Like, I was lucky to receive different opportunities to travel. One of them was very hard to turn down, was Rome. It was very, very difficult to turn down, but I love that. I don't see this this light going.
I feel like, living in Europe, I feel like the ecosystem in the Middle East, it's more dynamic. There's much more you're building, mainly because there's so much to do and so many problems. As you said, it makes you innovative, creative, inventive, as opposed to maybe in North America, like, it's already been built.
It's not that it's been built,
or at least we don't have as many problems, different kind of problems, I guess.
Yeah, I think there is no that, like,
no need.
It's not that it's been built, it's there, but there isn't that urgency. So most of the I mean, you can look at the ideas that are out of that from Africa and from Middle East, or let's say Africa, Middle East, Europe, and the States. Like, compare that, you're gonna see that trend. there is no strong drive to have, like, you don't have to be innovative. You don't have to have that. You're privileged with a lot of stable, and even within those countries, I mean, the entirety of like states is divided into different United States, they're divided in different states, and then you have the counties and everything else, and then you can see that in those small counties and those different countries, the whatever ideas are coming out of LA or SF, San Francisco, or California, it's completely different than what's coming out
Alabama.
of like, for example, or Alabama. Exactly. So it's the context pushes it is where the idea from. It's what you see that is needed. This is where your eyes are accustomed to a specific thing, and then you find that there might be a gap here, or you see something, then you try to bring it home. So it's not that it's already built. There is no need to be entrepreneurial in your nature and whatever you are. And there's another debate that was quite interesting. I read before in an article, is that because of how this was actually an article about the North and South, and it was quite interesting. It was written for the developmental field, anyone working in the developmental field. And because I was for quite some time, so it was an interesting read, is the dynamics between the North, the Southern partners and the Northern partners within the context of any partnership or anything else. And there's always in the back of our minds, there's always the North and South in any country. And funny enough, when this is the thing that's unique about Egypt, is Upper Egypt is actually our South, and or Egypt, because of how the plains, how the plains, because as you go into Upper Egypt, the land actually rises. So this is why it was Upper Egypt. Anyway, Southern partners and Northern partners, there's always that kind of unspoken hierarchy in the partnership, that these are the Southern partners and these are the Northern partners. So there's like advancement or you're better in some way because you're in the North, and then this is the Southern. And I did actually, like, I first-handedly experienced that. It was in one of the projects, not in a matter of like everyone was lovely and we've been helpful partners, but how the project was written and how it was constructed, it was kind of saying that it's the Northern partners are supporting the Southern partners.
We are the parents, kind of, and you were taking care.
Kind of. So it was, this is how it was playing out. When I read that article, it was speaking about that. There was an interesting section in there. I was saying the upbringing of those in the South and in the North, and they refer to the countries of the Middle East because they're usually like, and around the Mediterranean. There's even in the European Union, there's even Europe 8, and then there's ENI, who are the Mediterranean group that making up the ENI, and they have different needs and they focus on different projects. Actually, the sectors that they work on are completely different than Europe Aid. They have a focus about maybe tourism, green innovation, etc. And then you see the Europe Aid are like more youth and empowerment, etc. And the upbringing of Middle East is because of the desert and the environment, to have much more resilient humans in terms of actual physical resilience and maybe even emotional and otherwise. And you have Europe, which is a completely different scenario. You have different upbringing. You have different upbringing that upbringing makes a difference as well in how you're raised. So it's not just the need, as well as what you have been built to be, what you're told in stories and in heritage and in culture, where you're coming from, where you're trying to get. I think that also makes it, and the type of ideas that are coming out of the different continents, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the fact on the ground is that well, before we talk about this, quickly, what do you think? Is there any opportunities for businesses, European or Western businesses? What would you say are the opportunities for them to invest or to collaborate in the Middle East? What does the Middle East, well, the MENA region need right now, or need from the West in terms of investors coming there?
Well, I think this might sound strange, but I think we need more strategic investors. This is the thing, and I want them to want to. Maybe this is a dream, not more of an an answer. Not this is what I hope for is that we're building together instead of taking away the talent to go somewhere else. I understand that would want to take that talent and place it in their own playing field. Let's put it that way. Not a matter of stealing from somewhere else, but for the sense is that this is where we're going to be able to help them grow better. Right. What I think we need is more investment in the ecosystem itself, and so we are able to help those startups. Investment in different sectors other than fintech and AI and e-commerce. Invest in the heavy sectors, in the machinery, in the manufacturing or in the exporting. Invest in retail, in the businesses. I would love to see more investments going into SMEs, not just startups. So we can motivate the startups to move into that stage, because I definitely, this is definitely a problem that even when they grow, they label the startup, and we still label them as a startup because there is a lot of benefit in that name, in that title, a startup. So I hope that we can break that. So if you are an investor looking into, or a VC looking to start something, maybe start a fund for that. Don't come invest into the startup and hoping for them to relocate at some point. Fund that can support, work with the national entities, so we can help direct you, and where we would love synergies. Like the MENA region actually loves working, like as in we don't have that independence. We actually appreciate synergies, appreciate building connections and partnerships. So we're very open to that. And this is something that I love. Like everyone is open for partnerships and open for synergies. So this is should be the easiest thing that you can do. And invest in the larger sectors. Like let's break the cycle of the very traditional recycled business models that we've seen. Take an actual venture as a venture capitalist, and take a venture in supporting other types of businesses, traditional and non-traditional businesses like the startups and SMEs, and other sectors. Have a look at other sectors, agriculture sector, not agri-tech, like agri-tech.
A bit away from the only tech.
A little bit away from tech. Because a lot in there, there's a lot again within the Middle East alone, we have a lot of agriculture focused startups that are not, they have to be tech enabled. Again, that question within all of the applications, are you tech enabled, are you tech based? There is a lot of innovation that is not based on tech, like tech empowered, I would say that, or tech powered, let's say. They use technology, but they're not driven by technology. Like most of
the focus. It's like you use electricity. Like it's nobody asks you, are you using power?
Exactly. Social entrepreneurship is not tech based or tech enabled, but it is amazing. It can do wonders. It can do wonders. Like there are a bunch of tech enabled startups, a realm of things, but people don't want to be called tech enabled or agri-tech. They are a social enterprise. This is what they are. This is their values. This is strategy of the company. This is the core of the company. They are a social enterprise. So acknowledge them as they are. Maybe this could be one more thing. Acknowledge the social entrepreneurs. Give them the benefit of the doubt, even if there is no regulatory framework in that country right now. Understand their needs, understand how you can support them, and maybe invest in those social entrepreneurs. Understand how they grow, because this is another thing. The demand of like very fast ROI or the burn rate or grow at any kind of manner does not really work with social entrepreneurship or enterprises, and you're kind of putting them under you're setting up to fail. You're setting them up to fail if this is what you're after them as an investor or as a VC or anything. So maybe understand that and understand how they play out. This is
what about European SMEs? Do any which fields would they have opportunities in the Middle East? you know, because I get this question quite often.
Sorry, for social entrepreneurs?
In general, like business opportunities in the MENA region for maybe European SMEs. Do you think there are fields where could be that could be interesting for them to open an office, a branch? In which field?
Actually, absolutely. Like, I think in all fields, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I would give an example for Egypt, at least for just again, quite recently, where we're now signing an agreement. It's not signed still with Serbia for
The Egyptian government, you mean?
Yes, the Egyptian government for a free trade agreement.
Nice.
And that is going to open like wide doors. We had the First Lady of Serbia actually visiting Egypt a few months back. I was amongst the females who were invited to participate in her welcoming and her participation here. And she opened the doors to the country. Like, she was like, we're very happy to host you even and exchange knowledge, and we would even open the doors to our factories and our know-hows and everything. You can come and learn and grow. And she actually was very welcoming. And the same from our side, we welcomed all of those. She had a delegation with her. I don't remember the number, but it was many of the female startups. Even I think she's also an advocate for female entrepreneurs. So she had a delegation of female startups, startup founders, and it was a lovely exchange of ideas and knowledge and everything. And it's much needed. So she invited not only the startups, the SMEs. She said, we have technology. We are one of the still very true to our sense European countries that we can still support. We have a lot of common culture. This is something that was interesting to me. We have a lot of common culture points. So I think there's a lot of benefit. The MENA region is very rich for opportunities. I definitely believe that. So for they can definitely it would depend, I think, of the sector, the advancement in the sector, and where they're at, what they're hoping to achieve. So different regulations, customs and tariffs and taxes and everything. So yeah, I think this would be the only thing that they need to study, like in that market, in that country. The taxes, the tariffs, the customs, anything that can hinder their progress and hinder the purpose that they're moving or into that market. But I think there is nothing against any of that. The only thing I think the MENA region is still not open for, which is Web3 or blockchain or any of that area, or Bitcoin.
Because of the regulations, you mean?
I think so, yeah. I think we're not ready yet for that, and it's still actually prohibited in many of the countries. I think this is the only thing, but I don't think there are SMEs working in that sector. But anywhere else, yeah. I think they can definitely benefit from that. Just this is a very good old market research can definitely tell you that. But there are a lot of consultancy companies that are coming up quite recently. I've seen many in the past year that are like, if you want to start your business in, I don't know, case A, contact us. I think they're all mostly are legal firms that help you set up and go there. But I would definitely advise, like, do your own market research, speak to some in the country. There are a lot of peer exchange programs that they can be part of, and maybe have a soft landing at first. Come visit the country, talk to the locals, check the market for yourself before you decide to go about. But there aren't any sectors in specific that I would say they're not eligible or that they are. For Egypt, I would say agriculture. Just because I'm more aware for the SME sectors in Egypt, particularly, I would say agriculture, definitely, manufacturing. I think these are it. These are the main three, I would say, for SMEs. The rest startups, they're startup dominated. It's not like there aren't SMEs in there, but they're startup dominated. The SMEs, I think, they're still dominating the manufacturing and retail and agriculture. I believe so.
You raised a very good point. You have to be on the ground to speak with the locals to have a better understanding. And eventually, even if you start a business, you need to maybe have somebody who understands both cultures, somebody who
Right.
understands the local culture, but also is familiar with your own culture.
Yes.
That helps the communication, right? That you're like bridging the gap between both
That's
cultures. How did you end up working in this field? I know I should have asked you this question at the beginning, but actually I prefer to leave it till the end.
okay.
Like
That's
out of you went to high school, were you more inclined towards science or literature and arts, or were you both?
actually I was more inclined towards sciences, and this is this is something that is actually quite the case still. Which makes me the biggest nerd of all. In my free time, I love reading as much as I love writing, but I read physics books in my free time,
Wow,
which
I wouldn't have guessed. Okay.
yeah, I know. And this
Yeah,
makes me
okay.
more of a nerd that I already am. I'm fascinated by physics and astrology, and if I had the opportunity, I would have definitely done that. But I believe that it's God's plan at the end. Um, for me, this is my own belief, is that it played out the best for me. It's not something I'm gonna go as far as even choosing my major, choosing my university. Actually, that was something that has gone drastically different than my plan. I was already set to study engineering, actually, and there was a specific major. I'm not sure if it's still relevant or still there, in the German university in Cairo. It was somewhere between management and engineering. I don't remember the name, but it was somewhere in that. It was quite interesting for me, and I had already passed all the tests and actually paid the deposit and everything, and I was set to start in like a couple of weeks. And then my father, was a very traditional Egyptian, saw that ad for university in a newspaper, the university in Egypt, and starting the first cohort, and fascinated by the English education or British education, that he believes this is the true education. And he went, he had a visit. That all happened without my knowledge. And uh he said, let's go check it out, like let's go check the place out there, a tour. And I remember, like, I mean, if you visited a German university in Cairo, anyone who's ever been there, you can, it's a huge campus, it's a very big campus, like one of the largest campuses in Egypt. And the British University at that time had only two buildings, and I mean in two buildings, that's it. The rest was under construction. And I remember sitting there, I was like, no way, we're gonna leave. He's gonna see that and he's gonna turn around and he's gonna say, like, no, it's not ready. There's a lot of, like, how can we be certain that the cohort, what if it turned out to be a scam, even not even a joke? And surprise, like a week after that orientation day, that not only did he transfer my papers to the British University, but he changed my major to business and economics faculty. You can definitely assume my outrage at that point. I had something else entirely planned out for myself. But then again, it played out. I graduated first of my class, not first, sorry, part of the what do you call it? The
First cohort, yeah.
from the first cohort, and from the top of my class. Was lucky enough to be appointed as a teaching assistant at that time. Now, how I got into entrepreneurship was I think it was just a stroke of luck, to be quite honest. I hadn't even studied, like, I remember entrepreneurship was a word that I read in one of the management books. I didn't pass, like, I didn't read it, and I never knew anything about it by time. And when I finished, there was a few issues with my employment papers that got me to delay my employment at the university for 1 month than my friends who appointed with me. And because of that delay, they had already sorted out like the schedule and who's teaching what. And I'm a marketing major. So any marketing modules have already been assigned. So the only one left was the entrepreneurship module. And I think it was because also was quite not intimidating, as in it was a thing, but the module leader was the dean of the faculty, and it was David Kirby, professor I mentioned, and my mentor. And he was the dean of the faculty. So that of teaching entrepreneurship, which was completely new at the time, at least new to the ecosystem in terms of education. And to have the dean of the faculty, to be with the dean of the faculty, I think people like stayed away from that. So no one chose that module. And that was the only way that I can start teaching right away. So I was like, I like a challenge. By nature, I like challenges. So I was like, I'm up for it. This is something that opportunity for me to learn. I'll take that. And he has incredible knowledge. Like you can listen to his you can listen hours and hours. Like I deemed myself to be one of the students, not one of the TAs ever, his lectures. And I learned a lot in the few years that I worked with him. He then left the office, and I think he went into another position inside the non-teaching position inside the university. And then he moved out of the country back to the UK. And then I got my second mentor, my dear friend, I would say also, and my mentor, Dr. Hala Hattab. She's brilliant by study, a civil engineer who went in women empowerment and women entrepreneurship, and she's a guru in the world of entrepreneurship. And I was lucky enough to be working with her as well for a good I think 6 years, something like, it was a long time. And what was unique about her, I mean, I had both of them who were like, this is the perfect mix. I couldn't have asked of a better experience, because David Kirby had the literature down to the point. Like he had all of that knowledge that is from the early researches and the early literature of entrepreneurship, and that is what it was there. This is what I listened to for a few years. And then you had Hala Hattab, who brought in the ecosystem inside the class. Like her lectures were known with different case studies and speakers, and many of the startups, like I know startups that exist now because their ideas started in her lecture halls because of the projects and that she used to structure all together. So she was brilliant in doing that, and I was again do that. And FYI, her the credit to pushing me to where I am right now. But it was in, I think, 2015 or 2016, I don't remember, somewhere in that area, that she brought in to the university the startup weekend competition to the British University. I don't think they operate in Egypt anymore. But she had brought them into the university, and she hosted that competition in there. And it was close interaction with the entrepreneurship practical side. Like these were the enablers. That's what I've been reading in the books that I've been listening to. Like by that time, I was like hooked up on entrepreneurship. I was like researching like crazy. I was attending events. I was looking at people to speak to. I was trying to learn as much as possible. I was trying to absorb that, because to me they were like fascinating. And I remember saying that out loud at some point. I was like, they were fascinating creatures. And this is where this is how early my debate of born and like within myself, even born or made entrepreneurship. And they were like, I want to meet those people. I want to meet those creatures that we speak highly of. I want to meet the likes of like Steve Jobs and whoever, Jesus or whoever that I was reading about, and those brilliant examples that people keep referring to as entrepreneurs. And it was my closest encounter, but I had researched a lot and enough then, but she pushed me to mentor actually during that time. That was the first mentorship experience that I had during that time, and I still cherish that to the very point until now. That push did not if it wasn't for that, I don't think I wouldn't have had the courage that early. And that was for me, a brilliant encounter. And I hadn't stopped mentoring since then, and I hadn't stopped growing my knowledge in the entrepreneurship world. But fast forward to 2019, when actually no, let's go back to 2016. I had my dear friend Islam Muhammad, who was would be my third milestone, I would say, in that journey. I remember the day he knocked on my door. He's a known figure, beloved figure in our ecosystem in Egypt. He knocked on my door, in my office door, and said, like, I've been directed to speak to you about starting an incubator in the British University. Are you interested? And as I said, I'm a person who likes challenges. So I said, give me 2 weeks and I'll have something ready.
Oh,
that
wow.
Was,
You
that
didn't
was the
even
end
say
of the
yes or no. You said, yeah, okay, yeah.
I said, me too. I remember saying that. I said, give me 2 weeks and I'll have something ready and then we can discuss. Wow. And I went deep dive into I remember that I used to stay late hours. We had a rule back then at the university, like at some point they had to turn off the lights and no one was allowed at a certain time, and I'm having to be kicked out of the several times along during that time. But I was either in the library, I was either watching videos, I was researching, I was an entire program for an incubator. And I remember not having the place, not having the support of anyone at that point, because it was still something that we're trying out. And I had spoken to the facilities, facility management. I spoken to the securities. I figured out what we need. And I went 2 months, in 2 weeks, as I promised. And I said, this is how you're going to do it. This is the program. I've spoken to the facilities team, and we can have that classroom and that classroom and that classroom. And this is the schedule. That's the agenda. I had it laid out. And he, I think he had also done the same. He had researched things and he had something planned out, and we kind of merged both views together and we launched a program. And I do remember having to write that email out to the entire university, like offering, saying basically we're open for business kind of thing, is that we now have the incubator open, or we now have the program. It was and it's still labeled the same, still titled BUE Innovate to that day.
Still there.
This is what we called it, BUE Innovate. So we kind of, and I remember printing out those flyers out of the printer inside the faculty. I remember that, and I had to design that. I think I designed that on PowerPoint. I believe there was no Canva, nothing like. I'm speaking as if it was the the Stone Age, but it was just a few years back. But there wasn't like Canva or anything else at that time that I used. So I kind of designed something roughly on PowerPoint. Yeah. And we distributed that. We sent out the email to just the faculty and the students inside the faculty, different faculties, even engineering and the other faculties that were there. And we had, I think, 7 who registered to it. And I couldn't have been more proud with those 7. Like I was happy with those 7 more than I've ever been with anything that I'm doing right now. And they were actually some of the very interesting entrepreneurs with ideas that I work with. Like I remember one in particular who was, he invented that safety jacket that was, I think it was like 50 times, if not more, 50 times less heavy than the one used by our army and our soldiers. And it was 90%, if not even more, bulletproof than the ones that they were using. And he ended up actually selling that idea to the army, and or working with the army to actually manufacture those. That was an entrepreneur. Like this is like
not just raising money for.
And we had so that was the first one. And I brought in a few of my friends actually, and I asked some of the faculty members if they would want to come up and speak, and they did just that. And it was a lovely thing. And I remember I actually taught those, I would teach, because that time I had no clue what building was. So I like addressed those workshops as if they are tutorials that I'm used to. So it was highly academic and it wasn't so practical. Like this would be the only thing that I would change. But I had speakers who can come up and talk, and I had people who would like actually add more value to that. And it was rich contest, and that was it. And said, I think that was like an initial test, a pilot test that proves that we have something to work out with. So let's work with the second round, and I'll try to get a reward from the university.
That was in 2016 still. We're still in 2016?
Yes, yeah. 2016. And we tried another one. So there was a BUE Innovate, and then there was BUE something, I can't remember the other name, but one was offering a reward, financial reward, and one wasn't. And I think the reward I remember was 10,000 Egyptian pounds, just 10,000 to the highest winner. That was it, to the first winner. And we had three. The biggest one was 10,000. And that had larger audience, and it grew from there until we took place inside the university a year after, 2017. We had a building there, and being in charge of all of that was like, by then that was like official to the faculty, to the university, that Margreet is in charge of this, and Islam was supporting in that manner. And by then we were bringing in startups actually to speak. Like I remember we had Visita one time, and we had Shadouf. I think we had different speakers, actual entrepreneurs at that time speaking, and we had classrooms filled with different from different stages. We had faculty members who were actually participating as incubatees at the time, because they were working on their research ideas. And I was just like cloud nine at that point. And the program was actually grew from like four workshops to, it was an extensive 20 something workshops, from project management to marketing, marketing 101, and then advanced marketing, and then finance, financials. And there were a few modules, a few workshops that we've put together. And it was brilliant. Like they actually learned, and then we had a competition at the end with like judges and everything, until the day of, I think it was 2018, where we got the university had actually won a bid with a bunch of other partners to a project named Inu Egypt. And it was funded by the European Union. That actually took place in that. By that time, Islam had unfortunately left the British University. And I remember having this as one of like the most drastic and like anxiety attacks I've ever had, him leaving in this.
Left you alone?
I relied on him, to be quite honest, at that point. But I was more comfortable than I had before. So I was okay trying to work it through. It was just the management part, handling the university management, but I was kind of okay with doing that still. Again, it's just because I love a challenge. I love being put out of my comfort zone, except for public speaking. That I think that would still be quite a thing. And then it was up to us to, up to me to put together, to propose a program of 3 months, not just 1 month or a few weeks or anything, like 3 months incubation program for entrepreneurs who would then be selected. So it was a lot of pressure. Like, these people are not going to all get anything. So I was like, I felt like I was responsible for more than just giving someone knowledge. I was responsible for someone's future, because if I did not prepare them well, they might not compete well, and then they cannot represent their own business. But I love the fact that I've seen like those people who were sitting in front of me in 2018 participating, only trying to participate, trying to compete. I've seen many of them actually participate in competition, and they recognized me. That meant a lot for them to recognize me still during those competitions. But that was during that time. We've won that. We've given the program. We had to do a bunch of like project management stuff that I didn't know it was project management by that time, but it kind of came obvious to me. Like I had to take pictures to document that. I had to keep track of their KPIs. I had to keep track of their feedback. It was for me. It was like I wanted to understand what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. So I was keeping that for me. So again, it was a learning opportunity at the same time. And during that time as well, I think this is when the USAID was interested in supporting through the seed program, supporting the incubator. And I remember would be my fourth milestone. I think the fourth person that I'm very, very grateful to have met and worked with is Mohammed Ghaffar, who was the project manager for Egypt at that time, who I've only met once. And that would still be a point of surprise to me. I've only met him once. He came in for even like 15 minutes inside the incubation to see what we're doing. It was his job to like inspect what the other partners are doing. And he saw me for like, we shook hands. We've like learned each other's faces, and that was about it. He left. We've delivered the entire boot camp, and it was very, very successful, thank God. And it was, we gave them everything that we can. And that was about it. And fast forward around like 3 or 4 months, I received a call from Mohammed Ghaffar, and I thought he was asking for like maybe something missing per document, anything like that. And he asked the question that kind of changed my life to that point is, we're looking for a director for the incubator for those who actually made it from the boot camp to the incubation cycle. So, and I remember at that time, he still remember, this is a funny story that we keep telling, is that I did not even for a second question that he was speaking about me. And I remember my answer was like, yeah, sure, I know a bunch of people.
I can help you. Yeah.
I can definitely help you reach out to people. And he had to say that, he had to repeat himself about like 3 times for me to ask, is that, are you referring to me? He's like, yes, I'm calling you, so I'm referring to you. I want you to come be the director. And I couldn't believe that. I remember I was like, I was stunned for a few minutes, and I was like, thank you so much for your trust. Let me think about it. And to step out of the British University at that time, has been like my university for 4 years, and then to work with those people, this was my second family, to the truest meaning of the word. This was my second family. So taking the decision to step out of that and go to a completely different, I was changing industries by that nature. And to do that was not an easy decision. But I decided that I wanted to. I loved academia, I loved teaching, but I loved that more. I loved entrepreneurship in the practical sense more than anything else. And I loved the challenge. So I took the decision and I said yes. And I remember I had to leave very, very fast because they were starting quite soon. And I remember I didn't even have a break between it. It was 16. I remember the date. It was the 16th of June, 2019 when I left. Sorry, the 15th, and the 16th was my first day at the other job. And I haven't looked back. Yeah, I haven't looked back since. Throughout all of that, I still mentored, to the fullest of my heart. Any hour that I could have spared, mentorship I've done. And through that, like it grew faster and faster. It was progress was actually faster than I would have ever imagined. And again, thanks to Muhammad and everyone who supported me during that time. My friends included, because I was a very, very bad friend, I have to admit, during that time, because once I got fixated on that, like I wanted to be successful, whatever the experience was, like I wanted to get them out of it. I wanted to have the whole experience. So I would spend hours and hours trying to make sure that I have everything. I'm getting everything. I was attending and I was managing, I was handling everything, and I was handling a huge budget at that time, because not long after Muhammad had decided to kind of step down from being the project manager, and he appointed me as project manager to 6 different EU funded projects at one time. To be quite fair, it was only 5, and the 6 was outside of that entity where I was at. So I was managing 6 projects all of a sudden, 6 projects amounting to 40 million euros. That was huge ever. I had 6 different teams that I had to manage. I had entrepreneurs and tasks and partners to report to and things to do. And like it was fascinating because I've learned it was a lot, but it was beautiful, like in its own way. I was excited. I have to say that. Like,
You like the rush.
I like that. Yes, I was hooked on that actually. Like, I remember it was an unhealthy addiction at that time that I was coming up with new, like, I remember my were like, please stop coming up with new ideas. Like, please stop suggesting things in meetings, because every time I remember in every meeting, like, I was like, how about we do X, Y, and Z? And then whenever someone the idea, like, this means that we have to do this, not just the I remember my friend over there, she was saying, like, stop coming up with the ideas because it doesn't stop at the idea. Like, the idea is lovely, but then we have to implement it. Exactly. And I remember saying that because every time we have to implement the idea, I was like, why did I think of that? Why did I do that? Because it was adding to our very, very to the brim plate, quite honestly. But then it was lovely. It was an amazing experience. I did learn quite a lot. I'm still learning with every single step. Like, I love being around people who would allow you to learn.
That's important. And the best way as well to maybe is to teach. So that's why you're also interested in mentoring, because it's an opportunity to develop yourself as well on different level.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, my person, I would say, and she knows that I mention her a lot, Hadir Shalabi, who's the CEO and founder of 2 startups, actually. One called Friziana, which is the first startup that I've known her for. And the second one, it was Crafty, and she's a very well-known figure right now. She's won many awards since I've met her. And she's an inspiration on her own. Like, I really love for you to actually interview her, like, because she has a true story to and I think if it wouldn't mind, that would be in her native language, would be in Arabic.
You can put me in touch. Definitely.
Yeah, but she has a lot to say about that. She's a true inspiration in terms of the actual being an actual entrepreneur, and what she has done since then with it's been put on her plate. Like, she comes from a very small city in one of the smallest governorates in Egypt. She actually went into that career against any societal norms around her, including her father's, with the support of her mother. Who you go attend those incubation classes with her. I don't want to say her entire story. I want to leave her to tell it. But she's built, she built something where she came from. She put something back into the ecosystem that supported her. And that was
important. Back to the community.
She built workshops for the females back in that city to support them become entrepreneurs themselves. She's quite honestly, her and her husband, quite mesmerizing people. They have done so much without having all of that glamour. Actually, like, they are the least glamorous entrepreneurs I've ever seen.
Maybe a real entrepreneur. I think real entrepreneurs are those who are not out there pursuing the time, but they are just doing things.
Exactly. She's the least, like, I say that with it's a very positive thing that I'm saying. They are the least glamorous of that. I don't mean that in any negative way. They are the least glamorous of any of the entrepreneurs that I've ever met, to the point that I'm actually urging them, like, please online, like, please let people see and learn about the beautiful things that you're doing. They only come into play, like, you learn about what they're doing, and you can see that impact only when someone actually nominates them for an award or for anything. They don't do that. They just work. They do the impact, and they do it for themselves, and they grow through that. But once they come into play with someone who recognizes that and they nominate them, this is when the public, for a brief amount of time, they learn about what they do. So they've received many awards in that manner, and I'm happy that someone else other than me recognizes that. But yeah, that grew
Yeah,
out.
definitely.
This is
Definitely. I would definitely like to interview them, so put me in touch. But and I think as well, it reminds me of one of your posts about like that along the lines where that we should share our knowledge with others. I think you remember in a with a different post, and I think maybe they don't like the spotlight, but I think it's part of it's part of giving back to the community is sharing your own success story. It's not only about branding or marketing yourself, but by sharing what you're the good things that you're doing in the
the
community, the good
lessons learned.
impact.
Yes.
Exactly. Lessons learned, but also you're inspiring action and change in the community where you live and around the world as well.
Exactly. They're not shy of telling their story ever, and particularly her, because she's like the true sense of the Egyptian female who, like, I mean, she's a female. This is number one, working in Egypt, trying to make it as an entrepreneur in a small city. Just like she had all of the challenges lined up, but how she worked around that with a very honest heart, with a very pure sense, not knowing anything, just trying to do her best. This was absolutely inspiring. Until now, it's one of the most inspiring stories that I've come across. And I like I have many stories that I can tell, but hers still resonates with me to that point. Until now, she's one of the most resilient people that I know. She's now a mother of a lovely young boy, and she's still managing both companies while being a mother. So this is another story, even another badge that she would add to her achievements, I would say. So I would definitely love to introduce you to her. But this is that's the beauty of what I do, to be quite honest. Like I've met her, I'm still working with them, whether as a mentor or otherwise, but I am. And I would have never come across such an inspiration couple or people if it hadn't been for that, for opportunities. And that's what I love about what I do. And this is what I love about mentorship. Yes, I learned quite a lot while I'm mentoring. I learn from the challenges and how they go around it. I learn from their resilience. It's not like entrepreneurs are meant to be resilient, and you can sense it in their, like, how they're made, how they were brought up. I don't know how it is, but they are resilient in the face of many things. Like they can go really down and they can rise to the highest skies. These are things that I've actually seen myself. I learn about I don't know if that's the thing, but I learn about business. Like this is it's not, I don't mean that in the manner of I learn about basics of business or management or financials or anything, but I learn about the world of business, of how to make business
Real.
from
Away from academia, from the textbooks, you mean?
exactly, away from the textbooks. And this is because of the wealth of knowledge. Like I am growing as a better mentor, and this will never be like an open journey. It will never end. Like mentors should be
We all
learning.
need mentors, by the way. It's speaking of mentors, even mentors need mentors. Like no matter what
Absolutely,
you are. Yeah.
absolutely. We all, everyone, we all have a mentor, whether we like to admit it or not.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that we all have mentors around us or people that we look up to without having even to admit that to ourselves. So
Exactly.
so we absolutely need mentors. But they, like I the innovate, like I capture that innovation, that knowledge, and I let's put it that in a different way. Like I apart from, yes, books, and apart from articles and what the text and literature is saying, these are people who lived the acts, and these are people who are quite literally, to the word, they are proving that literature to be right or wrong. They're rewriting all of that. They're rewriting textbooks,
Yes.
per se. They're rewriting famous world-renowned authors because of what they're doing. So to be living with that, and I do recall that this is the part that I loved about Hala Hattab's lectures, is that coincidence. I mean, her lectures were, I remember one of the lectures were like slides. It was just like pictures. She had no text on any of those pictures. It was just slides. And it was her experience brought up from that from just precisely her being with close encounter with those entrepreneurs and with the ecosystem, and she was bringing that into with the most humble to a bunch of students who are still learning about that world and are learning about that ecosystem. And many of my colleagues right now were actually students of hers, like either working as enablers, many of her students actually, and they still recognize her for that. I am definitely amongst those people that she inspired us, whether to either become entrepreneurs ourselves or to work within that field. And many of us did. I can guarantee you, at least like there was a class that I was working with her at. It was called Special Topics in Entrepreneurship. It's a very unique program that she changed almost 100 times and within one semester. Nice. And she was well known for that. Like she would change, she was very relevant to what's happening. Let's put it that way. She didn't change it just for she was very relevant.
To match reality, what's going on in
exactly.
That's very important.
She wanted to give them the true sense of what's happening. And I remember that was one of the most intense conversations that I've ever had, because it revealed a lot about like they've known themselves. And I remember one of them wrote in one of the exams that they learned about themselves within that class. It transformed like their image to themselves. They've learned a lot about themselves, regardless of whether or not they ended up being having their own startup or an employment. I lodged with that person, so I know where they ended up at. But I remember that line is that class kind of changed who I am forever. That transformed me. That was a transformative experience, and that is a lot to say about a module that you're taking for your university for grades at the end of everything. You're doing it for, again, a certificate. So if that module changes you to that extent that you feel the need to write, that is a lot to be. But this is what I loved about her lectures, and this is what I still love about that crazy world of entrepreneurship, is that the fact that it's an open canvas. You include parts in it, and you get to see people actually painting their own thing, and the picture always changes. It's not the same painting, it's never the same colors, it's never the same people, it's never the same artists. It's a beautiful thing, and I think either we owe to just like join in and maybe build that canvas, or have the context to build that canvas, or give them the brush, at least, as I said once, just give them the brush to actually be able to paint that canvas. But I to be part of that, and I will never hesitate. So even when I go back, and I think at one point a few years, like many years back, around 5 years back, I'm saying to my dad, like, thank you for taking that very obnoxious decision.
Parents know best. I'm sure he told you. I told you.
Yeah, exactly.
They always like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate that he did. I'm sure that this is an act of God. It's something that was meant to happen, but it through my father, and I'm very grateful for that decision. Until now, I would have taught. I wouldn't have started teaching. I don't think I would have had that opportunity at the GUC. I was part of the first cohort, so they kind of had to grow. So they wanted to appoint from within the faculty, from within the graduates. So that was an opportunity that I don't think I would have had even before then, and the rest would have never have taken place. So
that's great. What are the briefly, what are the most exciting projects you're currently working on, or that are happening in the ecosystem currently, for any outsider who would like to know?
Okay, so from what I'm working on, I'm very excited about the association that I've started with my co-founders. So I'm not self-promoting or anything, but I'm genuinely
You're allowed to self-promote.
I'm very proud of why we built it, because that started as a small initiative under one of the USAID funder projects.
You mentioned the name, by the way.
Youth Entrepreneurs Association.
Yeah.
And it started as an initiative, a small idea, or maybe I don't know, a KPI under one of the projects in 2017. To at some point a youth entrepreneurs association or an NGO that would support youth entrepreneurs. with whatever mandate under it, but that was the vision. And then there were like several versions along the years of what would that look like, what would be the mandate, what would be the scope, what can we add. And it took turns and rounds, and we pivoted a lot through those years until we came to conclusion right now. The utter belief that we don't need to add to the ecosystem, we only need to enable the ecosystem. So what we are doing is working with the different organizations. This is why we have, I think, more than 40 something members within us, of the biggest names in the ecosystem on a local level and regional level, who have put their hands and ours and that, like, we want to work with you to in the ecosystem. So whatever we come up with, whatever outcome that comes out of YEN or Youth Entrepreneurs, we say YEN because it's Youth Entrepreneurs Network. It started Youth Entrepreneurs Network, but then the legal name, because we are now an association, so we have to say Youth Entrepreneurs Association. But anything that comes out of that is meant for actually Mustafa Abdul Latif. I think you've interviewed him. Mustafa is the vice chairman, sorry, for and what we have built so far, any success that we've had is a success for the ecosystem, because it's not something that we have built alone. It's something that we've built with others or supported their own endeavor in whatever they're doing. So we're here to make this a more enabled ecosystem. And I couldn't be more proud, because this is particularly what I think is missing, at least from the Egyptian ecosystem to that date. So I'm very, 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 very proud of part of this. And I would say the second exciting project that I'm working on is, it's not a project, it's actually now a very big product through Exits MENA, where I'm head of partnerships, which is a
what is Exits MENA for our listeners?
Yeah, so Exits MENA is quite a different, actually, business model. So it's not a different business model, sorry, it's an idea. So from the name, you can definitely guess what the scope is. It's Exits, which is something that the ecosystem has been doing for years. And it's not, so it's individual endeavors. It's either a group, a collective thing. It's something your VC can support you in. It's something that your incubator can support you in. But it's definitely something that's been going around. We did not invent exiting. But what we've done is build a company, or the founders. I'm lucky to be one of their oldest joiners, but I'm not a co-founder. The co-founders actually built that because of that vision. This was, I would say, the missing element out of the that you have the incubators, you have the accelerators, you have the VCs, you have everything, but no one is taking they're not taking on their hands the exiting part. So it just so happens, if you are part of a cohort that you've met, that at some point you've met with an investor in one demo day or in one pitching event or anything that led to a conversation that led to your next round or exit or anything, or it is your personal endeavors that led to that. So there isn't sorry, I'm trying to fix the thing. There is no entity that is responsible for that. So that's what they've filled. This is the opportunity that they've seen. I would say that this is what they added to the ecosystem. They're focused on supporting startups and SMEs in exiting. And it's not startups of a very early stage or, as we've discussed earlier, running after the money. It's actual mature startups that have put their mark. They not just in numbers, they actually have the idea, the competitive advantage. They have a stable business, and by stable I mean like well-founded business, something that is founded in the basics. You have strong bookkeeping, you have strong accounting, your business model is established business. Yes, so an actual business. So it's not just blindly driven by innovation and testing. You've that part, you've completed that and you're successful, and now you're going into stabilizing your business. This is where we come into play. And in order for you to do so, you want to expand, but maybe you're lacking capital. So that's what we're helping. The other side is the company would want to expand through mergers and acquisitions, which is again not anything that
like you're matching enough.
Matching. No, we're not. We're actually supporting both equally.
Both sides. Okay.
Actually supporting both equally. The thing is, startups try to raise very fast. That is something that we've already established. They try to start. They're trying to start. I don't know, like early from idea stage even. Like I know. I've been there and with the startups where like they're just drafting their idea, and it's like, so when I reach the investors, like this is not going to happen before like 3 or 4 years. And if you have a conversation with an investor right now, you're kind of harming yourself more than anything. But we're here to support the well-rounded and well-funded, but not just with the matching. So the matching comes later at the very end, and it's not usually why they come to us. Not even for the time being, and it's a lovely thing. Is for everything in between, like all of that. Our engagements range between 3 months to I don't know, like 6 months to like a year or a year and a half, just with the one company, preparing them for their investment round, which is filling in the gaps, to be quite honest. Like if you're familiar with the diligence exercise, which is basically putting your open wide to the investor and having them scrutinize every single thing just to make sure that they understand where you're coming from, your basics, your fundamentals, how you're running your business, how are you making money, everything. And they want to understand more. They want to de-risk your or understand the risks that they're about to contact.
Can it survive without you as well as a founder? Like
exactly.
If you can buy it from you, it's very important to show them that it's an ecosystem on its own.
Exactly. This I wouldn't have said it better. And we're trying to de-risk that startup before it has actually matched with anything. So we perform once the initial like screening happens and the vetting and everything and the data collection and everything else, we kind of perform a diagnostic exercise, let's say that, where we go into like field visits and interviews and meetings and everything in order to come up with, you know what, this is what we prescribe to you as a corrective action to all of the gaps that we've seen within your business, financial, legal, commercial, anything of that nature. And this is how we plan out to correct it. Sometimes they come into contact with a ready-made plan, like you know what, I want you guys to help me with 1, 2, and 3. We have to validate that first, and then we can also recommend other things that we can do. Once that's done, we the matching and we start the marketing for that. But this stage has to be done first. We don't market for any startup that is not ready, that is not mature, that is not well established, that is not functioning properly. We don't the thing that is that we don't interfere in is the business model, because if you're still lacking support, if your business model is not there, you're not there yet. You did not reach market. You have to finish that, figure that out yourself. You have the incubators, you have accelerators, and everyone else that can support you in that. Come to us once you're done, you've proved your concept, you have a product market fit, and then we can help you with the fundraising part. But again, once we have you investment ready, in the truest sense of the word, not just through capacity building, but in the actual true sense of the word, you are investment ready. And that led to that project, which is X-Match, a demo day. When we started speaking about that last year, it was, I think, I can't remember when we started speaking about that, but I would say like maybe June of last year. So we decided, you know what, we host a demo day for our startups and our cohorts, because we do have a long of startups, whether in the waiting list or in our mandates. We have very, very saturated pipeline, and we're very thankful for that. And so we said, why not have that? It would be good for the business. It would be good for the exposure. It would support. And that was around June, July, somewhere around that time. And while we're building and rethinking a very, very traditional, very, very focused, traditional, the usual, I would quote that friend, person who said the usual, very, very traditional demo day. It is not our main mandate, but this could help out with the exposure and with the matching. And it was honestly also a marketing endeavor, because we want that exposure as well, and we needed that at the time. And one time when we were discussing that, I was like, you know what? I think we can benefit from having something for the SMEs loan. And I remember that was like it was one of those things, like, why didn't I think of that? It was met with like enthusiasm from everyone. It's like, yes, we can do that. We work with the SMEs. We don't only work with startups, we work with the SMEs as well. So we help SMEs grow in the same nature and with the same endeavors, and we support them in the same exact manner. So why not target the SMEs, but do something different? Because for the SMEs, this is going to be an unusual endeavor. It's going to be an unusual engagement. Sorry. For the startups, they're kind of used to demo days, being part of demo days or invited to demo days. Exactly. But for SMEs, that's going to be quite different. So why not come up with that? Why not build that? See how we can support them in this. And I was very scared of how it will be received if we're going to have any applying, because like what they know about demo days. And that was a huge success. Again, we started thinking of how we can do that, the different tracks. We wanted to give them additional support just before going into that. So we built a minor, like a mini boot camp or program. It wasn't a boot camp. It was even just a 1 week of support. That's it, where we sat with them. We had experts, subject matter experts, come into play, and they kind of supported with whatever it is that they're gonna need in order to go through the due diligence. For the SMEs, it was a completely different conversation. They knew nothing about most of the things that we were speaking about. Some of them have heard about it. Some of them seen Shark Tank. That was the only interaction that they had. So they did not have any reference to some of them. It was the first interaction that they ever had with the entrepreneurship scene. And we had to change the narrative for them. And that was, again, a very rewarding exercise, because I've, again, learned a lot about SMEs, about their needs, and about everything around them, their context, just completely different than startups and entrepreneurship. And we've changed the narrative. We've built a different program for them. We help them overcome their particular challenges in order to stand on stage. We had 40 companies, 20 startups and 20 SMEs, which is a huge number for any demo day. It kind of backfired a little. That was the only bad thing. This was the only bad comment that anyone had to say. Like 20 pitches consecutive in a row, and one day was a lot, and I admit that. But thank God that was the only negative thing about it, because we decided to keep it small and contained, and it still is for this second year. It's small and contained, and it's only about the investors and about the startups. There's nothing, there's no glamour. We didn't add the glamour. It was just about those. We didn't include the panels, the many talks, the lots of speakers. We didn't add any of that. Nothing against that, but just because there is a lot of people, a lot of very, very, very events and that are doing exactly that. We're not gonna just be an addition. We want to add to the ecosystem, going with the same vision that we had in the beginning. So we didn't add the glamour to that part. We only kept it for the investors and to the that are pitching, and that is it. These were the two different stakeholders that were there, and we started pitching the idea to to different possible and potential partners, and we were very lucky with the partners that we had. During that time, last year, we had around 8 partners, I think, around 8 partners. Some of them are educational institutions, financial, donors, different types of stakeholders. And we received over 1,000 applications for startups and SMEs. Yeah, and we had to filter through many of the startups and SMEs that we received, which were actually and this is when we decided to do the second craziest thing, that have this as a regional event, a hybrid event, both online and offline. And this is exactly what I said, with me coming up with ideas and then having to execute them. So yeah,
the consequences.
so my team are very excited to learn that I wanted to have that, because I've seen that a lot of many of the applications that we were receiving were actually not the majority, of course, but many of them were regional. So we had the startups and SMEs signing up from Saudi, from Jordan, from Oman, from like all over, and from Africa as well. So I was like, there might be a potential here. There might be something that we can do here. I don't want to turn them out, and they want to say no. And it's exits MENA, so we do operate in MENA. So what can we do about it? So I was like, maybe we can have a hybrid event. Maybe you can include somewhere in the agenda a way that they can still pitch, and for the investors and lenders who are still also registering to the event from overseas. So why not include them in another way instead of them having to attend? And we did that. We planned out a hybrid event. But to our surprise and to our luck, that they've all decided last minute to actually come and attend, which is success measure for me. That was someone thinking of this as worthy enough for them to travel to another country to actually attend. That was brilliant. That was a brilliant move.
Shows the value of what you're doing, of the project. People are taking it seriously, and they know there's an added value.
Exactly, that they're will actually take from their time and money to actually come and be part of that. That was amazing. The second success was, or the other success measure for me was that SMEs, the day for the SMEs pitching, that was an eye opener, I think, for who was inside the hall on that day. And I remember that there's one specific business owner, that SME, who said, I have never stood in front of an audience speaking about my business. I've only spoken to suppliers and banks looking for loans. I've never spoken in front of a public. No one knows, even my family do not know the details that you're about to learn or to hear about my business. And this is alone an experience for me, and thank you for providing me that. So this was, again, a transformative thing. There is a strong need in our ecosystem to support. It's not like there isn't any support for SMEs. There is. And as I said, in the eyes of the financial institutions like bank and so forth, SMEs and kind of equate and just in that perspective. But the support for and the challenges the SMEs face are quite different. And they also would benefit from much of the glamour that or the spotlight that we're giving, the attention that we're giving the startups. There is still, SMEs contribute positively to the economy of all around the world. Like SMEs contribute to a
they are essential for the healthy economy. I mean,
exactly. So, and startups are essentially going to grow to SMEs. So if we don't have that ecosystem well figured out, the startups are going to still be startups, and they're still going to stay in that bottleneck where they go round and around looking for financials, because that ecosystem they need to transition to is not ready. It's not ready to receive them. So we can't just focus on one and leave the other. We need to focus on that one as well. And we also have, so the demo days are linked to specific cohorts or X-Match is not linked to anything. Anyone can apply regardless of whether they're incubated or they're not, they've participated in anything or not, as long as they fit that criteria or the selection criteria. And most of the demo days have idea stage. Ours has, or X-Match has, the mature stages, who are raising a minimum of like $2 million or $3 million, nothing like 500 or so nothing less than that, and they need to be in the market for a few years, and they need to be generating revenue, so no pre-revenue. So it's a different stage of ventures that we're offering into the market. The other thing is demo days are for startups who are raising or asking for a specific ticket size. X-Match is for companies who are either raising or selling. So one of the questions that exiting and but selling, because we added in the application because for SMEs they did not understand what exiting was.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very weird question. But when we what that was, we asked in the application, are you raising funds or are you selling the business? So this is when they started responding. And so when you come to the demo day, there isn't just just companies asking for funds in exchange of equity. They're saying, hey, I'm putting the entire business up for sale. So are you interested to buy that, to acquire that?
Even the pitch is different. There's a difference between whether you're selling or raising funds, the way you approach it.
Exactly. And how you prepare for that pitch is also quite different, because you need to, like, a due diligence for a fundraising is hard on its own, but due diligence for an acquirer is something else. You need to prepare well if you're putting your business for acquisition, or if you're looking for a merger, again, a completely different story. So this is, again, something different about it. And you would listen to, so they only there. We had a welcome note at the beginning, presenting the idea, saying why we're there and what we envision out of X-Match. And then we started heavy on the pitching, which was one after the next. Between every pitch and the other, we had the QR code up on the screen where the attendees would register their interest, whether in meeting up with that company or an actual investment. Like they had two decisions to make. Like, I would want to meet them still, discuss more things, or no, I'm convinced and I want to participate in that and I want to invest. And the attendees were we had the Central Bank of Egypt part of the event. We had 13 banks inside that hall. We had
coming to like, were they sponsors, or they came to maybe to?
No, they came to invest. They were all investors.
That's another major sign of value that you're.
Yes, that is actually, after all of that, let me tell you the other successes. This is why we were envisioning that for only 1 year. We did not have any plans to go have that
as a pilot to see what happens.
It wasn't even a pilot.
Not even that.
It was here. We said, we're going to do this. This is not our main mandate. This is not where we're doing. We're not event management. We're not hosting events. We're focusing on exits. And we wanted to do one demo day just to support with the marketing and exposure for our clients and for our startups and the pipeline and everyone like that. And we also wanted to benefit from the exposure that would bring. That transformative success, we kind of, you know what, we're going to keep doing that. So this is why we're doing it for the second year this year. But we had all of those.
You have a date yet for our listeners?
Yes, we have November 22nd and 23rd. Unfortunately,
in place where in Cairo?
It's going to be Cairo. Next year we're going to have another chapter, not just Egypt. So soon we're going to be having X-Match, but somewhere else. I think if they are first, they would kind of expect.
In the company.
No, if they're following the page, they're kind of, we're expanding, because we just made an announcement about that, and they would definitely be able to guess where the second location would be. But we're going to keep this one, but we're going to have different chapters just so we can accommodate the rest of the MENA. And we were definitely asked to do that. Like, I mean, after the first year, we were asked to come and host the version of X-Match somewhere else and in partnership with others. So we're definitely looking into that, but hopefully next year we're going to have another chapter other than Egypt. But having around those 13 banks, the Central Bank of Egypt, we had around 60 something investors as well, ranging from like corporate, and we also have different types of transactions available, because as exits we work in different types of transactions except for IPOing. So you had corporate ventures and corporates, even not just corporate ventures, corporates, corporate ventures, angel networks, angel groups, angel investors, fund managers, VCs, everyone who's in financing or funding or investment in any way were present. And we had 12 matches resulting out of that number, which is a huge number for first event. And they're currently going through the due diligence. So next X match in November, we're going to be announcing the results of those due diligence, and hopefully the deals that are closed during that year while we're preparing for the second round. And the biggest success of all, I would say, in my opinion, was on the second day of the demo day, I received a call from the office of Mr. Hussein Heba, the president of the General Authority GAFI, the General Authority for Investment. I received a call on the second day, and I remember his office manager was asking for the agenda. And he said, can you send me the agenda of the event happening today? And I was like, do you mean X match? And he said, yes, the one happening in the Four Seasons, because this is where it took place. And I sent them that in like, I don't know, like 10 minutes or 12 minutes after. He calls me up and he said, Dr. Hussein is not on the agenda. And I politely and naively replied, he was not to be on the agenda.
I would have said, but this is the honesty of a woman as well. You guys, I would have said, yeah, of course. Honest. Sorry, we forgot.
He was not on the agenda. So he was like, he's coming, he's attending, and we want him to give a speech. So please include him and add a part for him to speak on the day. So we had to quickly change the agenda, notify everyone else that the agenda be delayed on that day for at least like 30 minutes. And we've done that. And he did not just come and give a speech. He participated in the demo day. He sat and he listened to the pitches. He discussed the pitches with the audience. That was lovely.
They made your success. You have your government acknowledging your...
Exactly. It's not for acknowledgement, to be quite honest. What was the success was pitches and discussing, because every single one...
the first year, right? Like this is the first time.
This year, yes, that was the first year. But to have him sit in front of the pitches and discuss the pitches, that was big for the entrepreneurs themselves. It was for them. It was the government, like, we're heard. The government actually cares about what we're doing, and they see value.
We see you. We know you're here. We understand what you're doing.
Granted that our first year was in partnership with a project called Ecosys. Ecosys project this is the first year, or this is our exit's own endeavor, but in partnership with different entities. So we're partnering with Business Egypt, which is an USAID funded project. We're also partnering with under the auspice of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We have others that we're announcing, so I'm just gonna, I don't want to say them right now, but again, they're gonna be announced, different partners and other partners coming. Stay tuned. Coming in late, but yeah, we have the same mandate. This is it's gonna be number of pitches, though. It's not gonna be 20 per day. It's gonna be 10 per day only. But this is because we decided to keep that as an annual thing. So it's not gonna be one opportunity. It's gonna be every year. So if you did not partake in this year, hopefully you're gonna be part of it next year.
And I feel you're gonna end up doing it twice a year. It's gonna be biannual. We'll see. Be the first one to predict it.
Suggest that.
I mean, if you do it on a regional level as well, it was such a major success the first time. It's gonna have to be.
We're not gonna do it at the same time, so it's gonna have to be twice a year, but in different countries. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So they're both gonna be like all of the events. We agree that it's gonna be a hybrid event, so we're gonna have that opportunity. So any time that we host X, gonna be a hybrid event. This year we have even more. Last year we had $20 million dollars in investment as an investment amount. This year we've tripled that amount so far, but we have other investors coming in and adding to that pile. So the investment amount, just for everyone to understand, this is the total, the sum, the ticket size, or the investments that they're putting, not putting in, they're having available to the participants of XMatch. So we ask all of the investors and lenders asking to be part of XMatch, how much are you allocating for the participants of XMatch? And this is in case of a match happening. So they give us between X and Y.
These are regional investors or
regional investors,
okay.
Regional, local and regional
Are you
investors.
open to outsider, like investors from the rest of the world, or you're just focusing on?
They can, no, they can. We actually have, this year we have, I think it was a Japanese that are participating, and we have, I think, I can't remember, but it was a European, but I don't remember the country. And they're participating in that, but they have in the region, so that's why they wanted to come in that. Yeah, so anyone can be part of. The only thing that we ask, and it's all for free actually, so no one has to pay anything to become part of XMatch. Which is something that is beneficial for, I think, for our ecosystem in general, because this is how you enable an ecosystem, provide resources, manage that. We're able to manage such an event through different partnerships. We're able to make that scale happen. So we don't want to add a burden to the startups to come in with like how much the ticket and how much everything is. Like they can only worry about being present and actually getting their company ready for that. And we're happy to do this. This is the event. It's pitching the matches, and it carries out for the rest of what Exits does, because all of those matches then we take on to support with the fundraising and exits. So we don't stop, which is the other advantage of XMatch. We don't stop with the demo day and that. So you've met whoever you wanted to. So and we leave them be and try their whatever matches and whoever, and they have to go around with the investor. We carry out that exercise. So this is the other exciting thing that I'm working on. Yeah, I think if I have to pick, these would be the two. Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're part of the initiatives that are doing the most impact in the ecosystem right now. So like between Yen and Exits MENA. So you're so lucky. I would like to conclude our conversation for today with a few light questions. And I'm going to give you two choices, and you choose one of the two.
Yes,
Coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea? Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
I used to be a night owl for so long, but now I'm an early bird.
Emails or meetings?
Emails, unless it's a face-to-face meeting, one-on-one meeting, not online, not
no online meetings. Prefer to have in-person meetings and
yes, I prefer personal encounters, not online.
Work from home or office?
Office, actually. I would turn my home into a little office in order to have that structure. So I would prefer office.
Podcasts or audiobooks or physical books?
Physical books. I say physical books.
Nice. Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Mountain retreat.
Calling or messaging? Messaging.
Not calling. I hate it. Just like it's like I'm not a chatty person. Again, surprisingly enough, but I don't like to have phone conversations where, like, I would appreciate if calling up or anyone calling up, like, let's meet. That is absolutely fine. But holding the phone for like longer than 30 minutes just chatting is an energy that I actually reserve something else. Or maybe if we have to discuss, like, there's an absolute cause and reason behind such a long call. Other than that, I'd prefer messaging. Yeah.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs, definitely. I love cats, but as a pet, dogs, absolutely.
Like me, I prefer dogs. City life or countryside? Because you like the rush, but do you like mountains?
Countryside. I like countryside. I would say the only exception would be London, because I fell in love with the city. I hated the crowdness. I absolutely hated it. But right now it's very crowded. It's very, so I would be like around London. So like Surrey or anyone anywhere near London. So I'd go like I'd have be like an hour away from that. But other than that, countryside.
Well, the last question would be sushi or pizza or neither?
Sushi.
Sushi. Me too.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I think, well, there is much more to unpack.
Yes.
So I look forward to our next conversation. You have you have a wealth of knowledge that should be shared with the world. So and
thank you for
yeah,
allowing
thank you so
me
much.
to break that barrier, first of all, and thank you for allowing me that platform.
No,
Thank you very much.
you're great, and my audience will appreciate listening and learning from everything that you've shared with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
See you
you for
next
that.
time.